McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Monday, June 30th, right here on Jox 94.5. Appreciate y'all being with us. Happy birthday to my beautiful wife today. Hope she has a wonderful day, at least until I get back, and it'll probably be better until I do. So wanted to get out in front of it. Wish her a happy birthday first and foremost. If you see Catherine walking around today, tell her the same. A lot of college football to get to today. We've got Paul Finebaum coming up in 15 minutes. Craig Halbert's going to give us some recruiting updates from what happened over the weekend. It was a big recruiting weekend in general, which this recruiting calendar has been completely set upside down. We don't know exactly what it is really a lot of times anymore. We don't know the exact dates of how things are going to operate because, of course, the traditional signing day doesn't even really count. It's not even something that's real anymore. NIL has changed things. Guys wanting to get their spots a little bit earlier with the portal and how it has altered things. Guys want to try to fill things up a little bit earlier, make sure that they're going to have a place to go, a place to be. So there is no real traditional weekend. It used to be where you had a couple weekends in the offseason where you knew guys were going to line up visits and you knew coaches were going to try to get those offers in, Big Cat weekend, whatever it would be. But it was loaded up this weekend. Alabama has a massive sort of last week, really, not just this last weekend. They have 3 5-stars committed right now. They get a commitment from linebacker Xavier Griffin, who was committed to Southern California, 6'4", 210 out of Gainesville, Georgia. You also get cornerback Jordan Edmonds, linebacker Xavier Griffin, running back Xavier Crowell in the last week or so. A couple of 5-stars that had been committed. And then they get linebacker Zay Hall, a 2026 commit, 6'3", 215 out of Tuscaloosa. So Courtney Morgan, Kalen Debor, that Alabama staff have been doing work here recently as they continue to get guys committed, continue to have some momentum in recruiting. And with the way the landscape has changed, there are a lot of people, I don't know, I guess about a year ago that were extremely down on Alabama and Alabama recruiting, saying that it wasn't going to be the same, weren't going to be able to do it. And they sort of figured this thing out. And with the collective and with the people behind the scenes, and obviously Coach Debor and his staff, which it's kind of odd to me how people doubted it. They recruited well everywhere they were, including Fresno State, Indiana. They recruited Indiana at a different level than it had ever been recruited, including Coach Cignetti right now, because Coach Cignetti basically has done the majority of his work through the portal. But there were legitimate big recruits that they got when they spent time in Indiana and were able to pull those guys in and do different things there. So whether it's going up north, whether it's going out west, this has been a staff that has gotten people from different places across the country, maybe than traditionally Alabama has leaned on and relied on. And you do get a guy from the hometown, Tuscaloosa, there's Zay Hall, but you're racking up 5-stars now. You're finding some momentum in recruiting. You're finding a way to get elite talent in, and they're doing it in some different ways, and now seem to have some momentum and seem to have a little bit of consistency that they're going to continue to roll with. I mentioned Tennessee had a couple commitments over the weekend. Ohio State had a big one over the weekend. Miami had a big weekend. So it was just a massive recruiting weekend across the board. A lot of big-name commits committed. Georgia gets a commitment over the weekend. They now have 2 players that are ranked number 1 at their position, quarterback and defensive line, that Kirby Smart's going to bring in. So nothing really slowing down for Georgia. Nothing really changing there as far as what he's doing, how they're recruiting, and how they're operating. So we'll talk to Craig Halbert about it at 9 o'clock today, just how and why Alabama continues to have some of the success, and then maybe some updates on some of the other people that have recruited and committed to different places. Got some news on UNLV. BYU we'll get to later in the show today. Some comments from Oklahoma, some comments out of Colorado referencing Alabama that we need to get to. And feels like we got Greg McElroy now to be able to join us in. G-Mac, you with us?
We got action. We got action. How we living?
Doing great. How was the weekend?
Good weekend. Didn't bring home the championship for you, bud.
Nobody knows what championship you're talking about, but it was a big weekend for you.
One in Mahjong?
Not Mahjong championship. That's this upcoming week in Savannah. I'm playing with a bunch of retirees. But no, it was member guest down at the lake. Really a lot of fun. A lot of people that you're friends with, a lot of people I'm friends with. Really a blast. Had a great experience. Unfortunately lost in a chip off. So bit of disappointment there at the end, but ultimately proud of the performance. We did win our flight. So that's all you can really ask for, but good weekend. Not as good a weekend, though, as it sounds like some teams, Bama especially, had on the recruiting trail, though, like you referenced earlier. Goodness gracious alive. This is wild what's going on these last couple weeks.
But folks don't understand it was a member guest golf tournament that you're referencing. And so
yeah, well,
you still
I
never
think when
told
you say
them,
member
so.
guest, I think when they say member guest, it's a pretty safe bet. I mean, unless member guest bowling might have some of that. But yeah, it was a great weekend. Really a lot of fun. Taylor Zarzer was my partner. So we had not really spent a lot of time together in, gosh, quite some time. I mean, since they're doing the radio show 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I think he left in 2019, so it's been a minute. And we hadn't really got a chance to spend some time other than the random ESPN function. So that was really the first extended time we've gotten after, talking to each other all the time for 3 hours a day there from 2014 to 2018. So it was fun, man. Good catching up and good competing. But who ended up winning it was Michael Hennig, former Mississippi State quarterback. Now he's doing and rolling in real estate there in and around Montgomery and kind of all over Alabama. So Michael Hennig, the last Mississippi State quarterback to beat Bama, beat us again this weekend in the member guest shootout.
That's not a bad title to have. I mean, if you're a Mississippi State fan, you don't want a guy that long ago to have it, but pretty cool for him either way. What is a chip off? How does that operate? What is that? Because we got extra holes on the PGA Tour yesterday that I had on, and some husky South American that can just bomb it was doing well. I've never heard of him. I don't know who he is still, but he's fun to watch. Either way, what is a chip off? How does that work?
A chip off is usually to settle the championship, you would play some type of format with alternate shot, meaning I would hit, Taylor would hit, he would hit, I would hit. I think it's hopefully pretty self-explanatory. In order to adjust the handicaps, guys would play from different distances. So if you're a 4 to 6, which is where I reside, I'd be somewhere around 130 yards. If you're a 1 to 3, you'll be at 145 yards. If you're a plus handicap, you're at 160. If you're a high handicap, it goes down to the point where you're probably at like 70 or 80 yards. That's usually how you handle it. We hit alternate shot and best score wins. This weather didn't cooperate. So unfortunately, we were forced to go to a chip off, which means you hit it closest to the pin from where you start the chip. Whoever's closest is 1, second closest 2, so on and so forth. But because of where the lightning was coming in from, we had to chip off of blue stone. Yes, like the actual stone itself, and a kitchen mat. So not the most realistic way of settling a score. Is kind of unfortunate that that's the way it had to go, but it was what it was. We had to crown a champ, and that was really the only way we could do it. So super fun event regardless of the circumstances, but just hate that it had to come down to a shootout. Would have loved to have played, quote, normal golf to try to decide the champion, but weather just wouldn't cooperate.
So did you do this indoors? Were you actually inside, like chipping off a mat?
On a back patio. And no, when I say, like, not a golf mat, a kitchen carpet mat. Like, one of those.
Why couldn't they find like a
mats.
Golf turf mat or something or other?
No,
I get Russ Russell up there, and he'll get you guys some turf if you need him.
No, I think it would have been real nice to have some real turf. That would have at least maybe made it possible to chip it close. It was kind of an impossible chip and kind of an unfortunate way to finish it off. But hey, the winners deservedly won. They had 3 eagles yesterday on the last day, so they played great. So hard to be real frustrated when the team that played the best that day ends up winning it. So can't really be too frustrated with that. But I can't wait to get another crack at it. I found the game this weekend, Cole. I found the game. We are back. I am back to being a somewhat average golfer as opposed to being terrible like it was the last 4 months.
Well, I know the folks are excited about that and excited about hearing of how your game progresses for the next 2 months of summer. And
I'm not sure we'll talk about
the game.
My clubs are kind of going away here at this point. Usually in July, it's a little hot and a little busy to play a lot of golf. So it was a good peak, but now it's done.
When you referenced it just a little bit earlier, when you hear about Alabama's success in recruiting, 3 5-stars committed right now, more success over the weekend, doing it in their backyard, doing it up north, doing it in different places, really going over to Georgia and getting a guy that was committed to USC that I know the Bulldogs were high on. Where do you point to as far as the most responsibility for this success for Kalen Debor and his staff?
I think it just is the relationship building. I mean, you've been around Kalen. Help me understand, while he has not always had the most high-profile brands behind him from a recruiting standpoint, and let's be real, we know that recruiting is transactional now. No one's naive enough to think that it's all about relationships, but there has to be some semblance of the players enjoying their interaction with their future coach. And I think it's kind of coming to fruition now. I mean, it took him maybe a couple months to kind of find his sea legs, recruit his own roster, and kind of established a culture that people want to play in. And he can already point to having sent guys to the NFL. He did it at Washington with pretty remarkable ease. Now I think people in the Southeast, as he's been here for nearly 18 months, I think now in the Southeast, people are starting to understand, all right, this guy's a real guy. And you've been around him. What is your relationship like with Kalen? What are your conversations like with Kalen?
They're all genuine, honestly. I mean, the first thing is it's usually personal. Immediately asking about my wife and my family, and he's actually met my wife and my kids before, and went out of his way to speak to them, and I mean, bypassed me to go introduce himself to her and talk to each one of my kids. He's just a super genuine individual. That's the way that I would describe him first and foremost. He's a very positive individual. And, we know that a lot of coaches don't always present themselves that way. And it's understood with what they do, what they go through, how they have to operate. I don't really blame any of them if they're miserable half the time. I would get it. But, yeah, he's cool to be around. And if you want to dive into football and talk X's and O's, he can do that with the best of them. If you want to sit around and discuss how to raise kids or what you did over the weekend, he can do that. So I think versatility from a relationship standpoint is something that's a massive strength of his as well.
Yeah, I think versatility for sure, but I just think meeting the players where they're at, creating a culture, and look, when you're recruiting the top, if he were to go and get top receiver talent, top quarterback talent, that's not going to be surprising. Look at the guys that got drafted at Washington. But now that he's moving to the other side of the ball and has committed top corners like Dijon Lee from this past year, top linebacker, that also is a testament to the staff and Courtney Morgan, the general manager, Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator, and everybody on that side of the ball, Frank Molinguist, all those guys. Because I think that it'd be easier for Kalen to recruit super high-level wide receiver and quarterback talent. He has done that. And the guys that he had at Washington are a very easy thing for these kids just a couple years ago to point back and say, all right, yeah, look what he did with Roma Dunze. Look what he did with Michael Penix. But now that he's kind of venturing to the other side and you're seeing a bunch of defensive players in the last two classes that might hopefully go in and have pretty considerable impacts. I think that just speaks to how good the staff together is recruiting and not just really excelling on one side of the ball.
All right, we'll ask Paul Finebaum about it, get his thoughts on the success that Kalen Debor and his staff are having now in recruiting, what that means. Also looking ahead to media days, what is Paul looking forward to? What should we be planning for, maybe looking to hear about as far as the college football playoff, realignment, and collective bargaining now becoming a little bit more of a topic of conversation. But the Alabama heat and humidity always is. It's brutal. Don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years, and they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. We'll visit with Paul next. Ask him, is collective bargaining real in the near future in college sports? Right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Monday, June 30th, 7:18, right here on Jox 94.5. He joins us each and every week, thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Can hear him 2 to 6 p.m. right here on Jox. Also see him on the SEC Network. It's Paul Finebaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, always great to have you in on a Monday. A lot of recruiting success for Alabama in the last week or so as they continue to shoot up the recruiting rankings. Multiple 5 stars, 3 of them that are now committed. What do you point to as the main reasons that Kalen Debor and his staff having this success?
I think overall, Cole, Kalen Debor, with the addition of Brian Grubb and not finally getting the staff a little bit more to his liking, has brought continuity, and that's evidenced by him retaining his players in the spring, which I think is a very big deal for that purpose. And I think it's oozing over to recruiting. And quite frankly, this is one of the great recruiting runs we've seen in some years. It almost feels like Nick Saban is running the ship again when it comes to recruiting, because this is vintage Alabama recruiting. And I think when we saw this transition 2.5 years ago, I think a lot of people doubted Alabama could come back to this particular moment in time, but it is here, and I think it bodes extremely well for Alabama in the future.
There's still a bunch of guys that are, and I don't really follow the recruiting crystal balls very often, but it sounds like Alabama still got 3 or 4 more high-level 4-star, possible 5-star prospects that are leaning towards the Tide right now, and that July could actually be a huge month. Could we be fast forwarding, Paul, and thinking to ourselves, hey, with back-to-back top 3, top 4, top 5 recruiting classes, Alabama's not going anywhere as far as being able to continually retain top talent and attract top talent?
That is correct. And I think this is the most important thing. And I have a feeling, Greg, and Cole, to the rest of college football, this is a very annoying and irritating signal because, based on what the new transfer from Boston College to FSU said last week, and many others have said before him, Nick Saban may be gone, but Alabama is still one of the great standards of all time in college football. And I think a lot of people forgot that, especially younger people who only knew the Nick Saban era. Even during other coaching terms, and Greg, I'm preaching to the choir here, Alabama never got hung up on the record. They knew they were Alabama, and it upset a lot of people. It came off as arrogant and cocky, but it has always been able to be backed up over the course of history. There's a reason why there's so many statutes outside Bryant-Denny Stadium for coaches who have won national championships. And I, while recruiting is not the final arbiter in college football anymore, and we all know that, and we all talk about that every day, it is still an incredibly important sign. And what I'm interested in, and I will leave it to the recruiting experts because I'm not one either, is if Alabama is doing this well, it's at the expense of who? And because Alabama has been losing these battles over the last year or two, not all of them, but they've been losing some of them. Right now, it looks like they're winning almost all of them.
And you've heard multiple comments now from different players that are committed. You get a player from Tuscaloosa and Zay Hall. Paul, of course, he's going to say, listen, I grew up dreaming to play for Alabama. That one makes sense. But a few others have referenced things close to that also. Along the lines of what you're stating, could we be seeing maybe the benefit of, let's just say, that 2:30 CBS game for what, 8 or 9 years, where Alabama A&M, Alabama Tennessee, Alabama Georgia, Alabama Florida, whoever it was, I mean, that's what these kids grew up watching. Is that something that Kalen Debor and his staff are going to be able to lean on that not a lot of other programs had the advantage of?
Well, nobody's had that advantage, Cole. You're right. And one thing about Kalen Debor, he is different. He tweaked things, he altered things, but he never let go of the core. And again, I'll go back. I don't want to go back into ancient history, but a lot of coaches have come into Alabama and have tried to break the mold. He didn't. He leaned on Nick Saban when he needed to. Saban still walks around and can be seen. Not that that is helping you get a 5-star recruit, but I think a lot of people just forgot that it is Alabama. Alabama is the brand. Alabama is the brand that has been around college football since the Rose Bowl of the 1920s. And again, I would laugh sometimes when I would hear young people say, well, it's only Nick Saban. That's not true. And I'm not taking anything away from Saban. That's absurd. You don't need to have this conversation this early in the morning. But when a recruit lands in Tuscaloosa or drives through that city and sees the sights that everybody has seen now throughout the course of history, it resonates. And some places it just doesn't. It's all about what happened recently. They just won a national championship. They've just been on a roll. Alabama has always been there, and the signs right now are it looks like it's always going to be.
Yeah, it's been wild to watch, and I look, it's hallowed ground for me. Naturally, I can understand why there's an appeal. Even back when I was a kid in 2006, January, on my official visit, I'm sitting there like, this is awesome. I'm like, they haven't won more than any game since 2000. I'm like, I don't care. It's Alabama, and it still resonates, I think, with many. Paul, a lot of people said Alabama would never recruit well again. Partly because they don't have as much money as the Texases, the Texas A&Ms, the SMUs, what have you. I obviously think that there's more to it than that, but in this new landscape, can Alabama still be the alpha dog?
I think that remains to be seen. And as high as I am on everything we've already talked about, Greg, you're around these Alabama fat cats more than I am. And there is concern, and there has been concern. And you just said a line that was in a book last summer. I can't remember. It was an anonymous person, but basically using profanity more than we can handle this morning. Alabama's done after Saban, if he ever leaves. That was the point. The book was by John Talty and Armin Katan was chronicled in Saban's final season when that comment was made. And that has already been proven wrong. The only thing that has not been proven yet is whether Alabama can sustain the financial ability like the Texases and like the A&Ms and some of these other schools. I think it's one thing to get a player. It's another thing to keep him. So on that part of the card, Alabama answered that already in the spring by not losing any players. So I think the answer short term is yes. But I think it's all a matter of how the new House settlement gets dissolved. I think that actually helps Alabama a little bit more, where while there's a lot of money at stake, it's not just open checkbook like it was 6 or 7 weeks ago as the mad wild rush was made to get in under the wire.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Paul, moving ahead to sort of big picture around college football, Ross Dellinger reporting today that collective bargaining seems to be something that more administrators are now open to, at least investigating, looking into, and maybe even being pushed just a little bit. But what are you hearing? Where are you on the possibilities? I've always been in the camp of it would be too complicated to actually take place. What are your thoughts on where we are now as it pertains to potential agreement with collective bargaining across college athletics, be it just football, basketball, or all sports?
Yeah, I don't know if you can limit it, but I do think, Cole, what you're hearing from administrators, because remember, a lot of these administrators are now former NFL people, not so much the ADs, but the GMs. And I think the people on that ground level are far advanced than what we're hearing from in the higher positions, the commissioners, the executives, the people that are involved. So I think this has to balance out. But I think people at the top cannot continue to resist. 15 years ago, they resisted, and look what we got. So they need to be more open-minded and quit being so Sherman-esque, and we're not ever going to do that, and we can't do that. I think it can be done.
I think part of the appeal is they know they'd crush the student athletes in that situation. Like, there's too many of them, and there are too many different levels. It's not like the NFL or the MLB where they really truly could band together because they're a team of just 1,600. You can't get through half the conference before getting to 1,600 players in the Big Ten. So I guess I'm just having a hard time, Paul, understanding how the heck it would be beneficial to the student athlete to collectively bargain, because as someone that went through a lockout in 2011, I think the student athletes would get absolutely buried if they went into a collective bargaining situation.
Well, listen, it's a really good point, Greg. But the one thing I'm wondering about is how much the middle and the bottom is going to be cared for anymore. I've already heard leaders, when asked about gender equity, Olympic sports, I hear, well, we've got to balance the books. That's a shot across the bow. And I'm wondering, as much as what you said makes sense and is real, how much the athletic directors, in spite of what they say, what do they really mean? And back to what I said a minute ago, how much power do they really have? Because to me, when you send a Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl out to Oklahoma to run the football operation, what does that mean for the AD who has been there for 30 years? Same at all these other schools. I mean, I don't think, and I hate to give you a broad answer here, but I don't think we really know or have any idea how this next 6 months to a year is going to work out once we get through with the litigation and once we see where we are a year after the House settlement.
Paul, always appreciate the time. Great stuff. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
Can't wait. Thanks, guys.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. He's with us every Monday, thanks to our friends at Craneworks. We'll finish that conversation on potential collective bargaining in college sports, how it might look, who maybe is most responsible for pushing that narrative, and more next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:33 Monday, June 30th, right here on Jox 94.5. Collective bargaining in college sports. There's an article up now from Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports discussing Danny White's presentation of what it may look like. And he says in the article it's time to go public. He's been voicing it in private rooms for years. I'm not going to bite my tongue anymore, Greg, stating that he has it all outlined as to how it would look, what it would be. Collective bargaining and employment status, he doesn't believe should be seen as a negative anymore. So they would not necessarily become employees, but there would be a new structure set up for a national employment organization that partners with a players association, or perhaps one already formed in the professional leagues to create a modernized and improved ecosystem, for football and men's basketball. I have said that I just find this too difficult, too complicated for everybody to get on the same page. There's too many moving parts on an annual basis, much less a monthly, weekly basis. And you seem to think that if this were to be put in place, that administrators might now welcome this because of how beneficial it may end up being for them as opposed to the players.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot easier to get 16 SEC schools together. I don't know, they do it all the time. To collectively decide what's best from the vantage point of the institution. I think it's a lot easier to get 18 Big 10 schools together, 16 Big 12 schools together, 14 ACC or 17 ACC schools together. Like, it's pretty easy to consolidate under one umbrella from the school's perspective, because ultimately in the school's vision is pretty simple. They want to have some constraints on the student athlete. They're fine, I think, at this point now with 22% of it going out, $20.5 million now going to the student athletes. They have no problem being able to give them a little bit of a share. But the student athletes, I think, and this is just my own personal perspective, having gone through a negotiation before, everybody that's involved in the negotiation has different priorities. And we, as the NFL Players Association, got crushed in 2011. We literally gave up rookies' pay scale after Sam Bradford and Matt Stafford. Their rookie pay scale went down 50%, which was big. They got rid of two-a-day practices, which benefited the older players because their careers would now be extended. And that was part of the bargaining chips that they wanted. Like, they altered drug testing. Like those, and like that, and we gave up multiple percentage points of the overall bottom dollar in an effort to get those things through. Like, what are we doing? Like, all right, so we now no longer we only drug test once a month. But yeah, you can get 52% instead of 51. Like, what are we doing? So I'm telling you, man, I think collective bargaining, as someone that went through it and it resulted in a lockout, and you have millionaires, guys that legitimately have millions of dollars that cannot afford their lifestyle, that's a concern. Imagine when you're dealing with a bunch of guys that are not millionaires and that are a little bit younger and maybe a little more reactionary. I just don't think collective bargaining is something that I just wouldn't recommend it if I were the player. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing where it goes, and it's interesting, as you stated. Now, maybe administrators starting to push this a little bit more so than in the past, where we thought they would have always trying to hold this up, or throw up barriers, throw up speed bumps to be able to get to this.
So
this may actually benefit them more.
If I were an administrator, heck yes, let's go to the table, boys. Like, let's go. From the school's perspective, I think the schools, they could lock guys in. You could basically close the transfer portal. There's a bunch of stuff that they could totally get rid of. I mean, it would look just like the NFL as far as contract structure. That's what the administrators would be pushing. And they would make concessions like, all right, no more drug testing. And that would be like a huge win. You know what I mean? Like, no more, no more, you can't start fall camp until August 1st. Perfect. We'll give you another percentage point for that. You know what I mean? I just think there'd be so many concessions that the players would be willing to make that I just don't know if it'd end up working out much better than it is right now. I think what they have right now is actually pretty good for the players. And I don't know, man. I think if you could also quantify, hey, how much these schools worth versus the players and stuff, I think it'd be a tough bargaining to deal with.
It's intriguing to see because it feels like so many people have been so against this for such a long time, and now it realistically may be on the table, and the sides that are pushing for it may have actually flipped. And we know that we have grown-ups out there that are pushing for players, not necessarily from the other end, the administrative end, to go do this, but from the players' end, hey, you need to do this, you want to be this. We have a players association. I'm the president of it. We don't really have anybody that we represent right now, but we act like it's a real thing. And now on the other side of that, it's the administrators that are going to want it. So as you and I have stated before, college football players right now have it better than ever. And this is the exact time that you would want to be with the freedom that you're allowed, the things that you're able to do, the places you're able to go, how you're able to operate. There should be no reason to go backwards with where you are right now as a college football player in today's landscape. I mean, it's about literally as good as it could get. Would you not agree?
Yes, it is literally. Well, no. Prior to the House settlement, it was as good as it could get. so yes, in the last 6 months, it went from being the best it ever was and or maybe will be to still extremely awesome as a college football player. Now, frankly, I think some of the things that they want are actually working against their long-term development, like transferring from school to school to school and having endless amounts of freedoms. I don't think you want to have that. I don't think it's ideal to have that much freedom as a player. I think a little more structure would be beneficial for some guys' long-term development, but that's beside the point. That's not for everybody. If guys want to make bad decisions, that's on them. But I still think that being a college football player right now is about as good as you could possibly ask for. Becoming an employee, unionizing, all this stuff. And by the way, you think the union guys are going to do it out of the goodness of their heart? Like you might end up giving up an extra percentage point just to the guy that is bargaining on your behalf. Which, tell me why that makes sense. That guy literally has done nothing to help or help the sport outside of just being a shark that's trying to take money from kids and from administration. So I don't think that collectively bargaining is something that I would encourage them to do. I would maintain the status quo as long as humanly possible and just hope that things can continue to look the way they've looked the last couple of years if I were a player.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll move on from that to a different kind of moving and one that is a little bit more difficult. But if you need to move out of your home, Greg, who should you call?
It'd be Crocker Moving Service. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movies you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up, move your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Something most of you are going to be doing this upcoming week/weekend. That is traveling with children. What is your advice? What are the things that you have found that works? How do you manage it? We'll discuss it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Before we move into travel with children, a couple folks chiming in on our previous topic. Dwayne tweets in, did Greg just say SMU has more $, $, $, than Bama, ? Please tell me that's not true. I get Texas and A&M, but SMU, ?
This is going to be really unfortunate to just consume, but yes, SMU has more money than probably everybody in the Southeastern Conference outside of Texas and A&M.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Don't feel bad about that,
but
don't feel insecure.
I don't think that's really embarrassing.
Insecure.
That's just kind of.
It's not embarrassing. It's just a reality.
It's kind of what it is.
Probably per capita the wealthiest school in the country, and that includes Harvard, Stanford, all those. I would say SMU might be number one. I don't know for sure, but it's probably up there.
Jolly also tweets in, school's always going to be in the driver's seat. This is Wild West landscape right now in college sports. Landscape was never going to continue for each action an equal and opposite reaction. Ron Selesky tweets in, I went through the NFL player strike in 87. Collective bargaining is not collective. The rich get richer. Owners hold the cards. Unions are led by attorneys who see $ signs and not much else. I can't fault players for trying to get as much as they want while they can. The Unhipster tweets in, Greg knows SMU is rich as chocolate ice cream emoji. At least that's what we're going to go with today. Greg Skipper tweets in, we went to Dolphin Island recently. Wife and I drove our car and grandkids rode in their cars. A very pleasant ride. I believe the parents enjoyed various screen devices. So you had a long ride with the kids yesterday, G-Mac, and wanted to sort of discuss it on the show today. How did things go? How was the trip?
I just need to know how. I have buddies that travel with their kids. No problem. We struggle as a family. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I love my children more than anything on God's green earth. Wife number 1, children 2, 3, 4, in no particular order. But based on yesterday's order, they're like 7, 8, 9 right now.
At least they're in the top 10.
They're still in the top 10. Yeah, they're still solid top 10. But the dog has passed them. A couple others. Like, honestly, first, all right, so here's where we're at yesterday. Leave Birmingham. Actually, leave the lake at 8:30 a.m. Get to Birmingham. Drop Taylor off. Actually, take it back one step further. It was like planes, trains, and automobiles yesterday. We took the boat to the golf tournament on Saturday. There was a storm. Couldn't drive the boat back, so I had to go to the golf course, get the boat, bring it back. That was 40 minutes. Then we drive from Alex City to Birmingham. That was, to the airport. Back home, that's 2 hours or so. Then pack the car, load up the car, get the kids in the car, charge the iPads. Now we're in the car, rocking and rolling around 2 o'clock local time here in Birmingham. I literally decided to leave during the worst thunderstorm in the history of Birmingham, Alabama. It was insane. Like, the amount of water. We were driving 15 miles an hour on 20 until I got probably past Leeds. So that added at least a half hour to our trip, maybe more. And I was like kind of freaking out. I'm like, if we can't get out of this, it's going to be bad the whole way because this storm belt is going from west to east. The kids are good there for a little bit. May falls asleep. Both boys are totally content on the iPad. My wife's watching the show, and I'm listening to an audiobook. So I couldn't be happier. I'm listening to Psychology of Money. This is fantastic. Like, this is the greatest trip ever once we got through the storm.
30 minutes
And then all hell broke loose. Okay. I say, all I want to do is get through Atlanta, guys. Just let me get through Atlanta. And we'll figure it out from there. And sure enough, the second we get through Atlanta, May's screaming, crying. We go to 3 different fast food restaurants. I decide I want Firehouse subs because I'm driving, and I'm going to get what I want. So I got the Firehouse subs. They had 3 different restaurants. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I need to go to the bathroom. We need candy. Guys, and it was 7 hours, every bit of it, in the car with the kids. And I thought, honestly, if I'm going to give them a legitimate grade on their performance yesterday in the car, I'd give them like a solid B+. It was pretty solid and yet still miserable. What is the secret? Somebody has to help me. What is the secret? Because if I have a 1-year-old screaming at the top of her lungs for the final 90 minutes on the road as you go down I-95 through Savannah and over to Skidaway Island, I just need to know the secret, guys. Help me. Cole, help me.
I don't have it. I don't think anybody has comfortable rides with children on a regular basis. I've told you before.
But what's the tipping point? Like, how far is too far?
As far as the distance you ride with them in the car, we've gone 6 hours. That's the max that we have gone. I mean, I think it just depends on the situation. If you had, say, a family reunion or something that's going to be longer and flying was kind of out of the question, then, I mean, you just make it happen. You push through. The best advice that I can give, and this doesn't qualify for every situation, but when it allows it, and I've told you this before, the one sort of secret that I have when, let's say, a beach trip that we try to make maybe once a year in the summers, because we have access to a place down at the beach that we're allowed to use, and we will give up the last day to leave late the night before. So we'll put them in their pajamas and we'll let them have their iPads after we get going for a little while, just to kind of get them started and calm them down a little bit. And we'll leave at like 7 p.m. to drive home. And there's literally no traffic. And, we're not going to need to stop and go to the bathroom because we understand that we don't want to have to stop. The car's full. Right. You don't have to stop for gas. They're asleep. And they're not going to want to stop. They're not screaming. They're not yelling. Like, yeah, we get home late, and it's not great for us. And the kids are probably going to get up early, and we're going to pay for it a little bit the next day. But the drive is singular without stops, and it's not necessarily yelling. Like, usually what we'll do is we'll take, like, my AirPods, and Catherine will put one in her ear. I'll put one in mine. We'll listen to a podcast on the drive home, because we obviously aren't going to be talking and stuff like that. And we don't want to, somebody talking over whatever. She puts like the white noise on, and on her phone, we get a podcast on mine, and we just go. And we've done that 4 or 5 times, and it's the absolute best. Now, I understand if you're going somewhere different, you have different things to do, a different agenda. That doesn't always work. But when that allows it, that's the only advice that I can give as to something that actually is going to work.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like I said, like, based on how I thought it was going to go, it was 10 times better than I thought, and yet it was still really hard. And I love the idea of the night thing. We tried that one time. Actually, I wasn't there. Meredith was making the drive with just Vince and JG at the time. It was just 2 of them. So it was only 2. JG and Vince both were on their iPad the whole time. They left at like 8 o'clock p.m. going down to 30A. They got there at like at like midnight. Neither kid had slept. They had just sat and watched their iPads. So literally the whole next day, they were up till midnight Central Time, which is by far the latest they've ever been up, with the exception of when Vince and I went to the Final Four. That was the only other time where Vince was up later than that. They didn't sleep, and they were miserable for like 2 days after that. So how do you get them to sleep in the car?
Catherine will take their iPads after a little while. Like I said, we let them have them for a little bit, but then she'll say, all right, guys, that's it, and then they usually fall asleep. Keep in mind, it's been like a half a day at the beach also, or the pool, one or the other, so they should be kind of worn out. We have that advantage, but that's the only positive that I can give you, or maybe advantage that I can give you. It's worked for us.
I need to know from our listeners, and I think quantifying it with a 1-year-old here. Like, May is 1. So we know we've bitten off a lot, right? Like, traveling with a 1-year-old, I don't care if it's on a plane, I don't care if it's in a car. Traveling with a 1-year-old is extremely difficult. In the last 3 weeks, we've been to Dallas, and we've now been to Savannah, which is great. Love it. Wouldn't change a thing other than just having the click remote fast forwarding through the drive, especially the last 90 minutes to 2 hours. I just need to know from somebody listening, whether it was now or whether it was 30 years ago, what's the longest you went in the car with a child that was under the age of 2 in a car seat that is rear facing? I need to know, like, how long have you made it? Can you make it? Because if you have some secrets that we can apply, I would really, really like to know. And if I could find out by Saturday when we have to make the return trip, that would be ideal.
Yeah, I think that's the key is what advice can you give? What secrets can you hand out and potentially be able to help with? One secret as to where you need to go to pick up any jewelry, Greg, is Bromberg's.
Yeah, Bromberg's great. It's the only place I've been shopping for a long time. If there's ever a special occasion in our family, if there's ever something coming up, it's always the first place I go. It's the only place I go because I'm always satisfied with the experience that I have. Walk in the door, meet with incredible sales staff, check out the beautiful jewelry. Bromberg's just takes that experience to the next level, and they do so every single time. So much have appreciated all the different times we've been able to go in there and buy something that hopefully will be in our family for multiple generations, like a luxury diamond, gold, silver, platinum jewelry, you name it, they got it. So go check out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, so we'll keep that conversation rolling. You chime in, help us, 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX, text in 205-834-9450. Tips on travel with kids, next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hour number 2, 8 a.m., Monday, June 30th, right here on Jox 94.5. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We were talking travel with children. What's your advice? What's the best way to do it? What have you found that works? 800-239-9569. get you on the Higginbotham hotline because a lot of folks are going to be traveling with kids this weekend. With the holiday weekend coming up, Greg had a trip yesterday looking for advice for the way back, for the way home. You can also tweet into the show at Mac and Cube. What works for you? Hamilton tweeting in. You can be a part of the show there. Drove Mobile straight through to Minnesota twice and a couple times Mobile to St. Louis in Minnesota the next day with 1-year-old. Use windows down method when the rage screaming kicks in. The gustiness helps your ears and they pass out. Supplement with milk/pouches. Okay. I don't think.
I didn't even think to roll the windows down. I'm not going to lie. There's nothing that I would. All I can see is like in our car, JG sits right behind me. I'm driving. May sits right behind Meredith. She is in the passenger seat. And then Vince sits behind May in the third row. So in our car, in the event in which we rolled the windows down, I would think JG might throw an iPad out the window. That's a strong possibility. I'd put it at 40%. And I'd feel like May would absolutely lose her mind. But it's a good thought. It's a good thought and one that's probably worth trying.
We have multiple children that get car sick on a regular basis, so the windows come down a lot. It's not comfortable for anybody, in my opinion. No. Specifically when one goes down and you get the and you have to roll a different one down. It's just a headache. It's, for me, windows down, not great. I'll stay away from that. Brandon tweets in, man, in the 80s and 90s, our parents didn't have tips. They had threats of half killings. So we got some threats from the parents.
Don't know if that works on the 1-year-old.
About that. Yeah, well, yeah. D tweets in, 14 hours with a year-old in a car was somewhat doable because he slept 6 hours of the drive there and back. That helps. Finding really that sleep schedule helps a lot. So
yeah. I mean, I've talked to a couple people. They're like, why don't you just make sure they sleep? I'm like, how do you do that? Like, what do I keep them up all night the night before? Like, what do you do to guarantee that they sleep in the car there for a bit? Like, we left right at 2:00, which is perfect nap time schedule, and she slept for maybe 45 minutes. So, how do you guarantee that? And don't tell me drug them. Like, that's such a ridiculous thing. Like give them melatonin. Like, I'm not giving my 1-year-old melatonin. I'm not doing it. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that's not what I'm going to do in our household. So. That to me is not a solution. If you have a different solution, totally open to listening to it.
Oh, we'll get Damien in here in a moment. Read the text line as to some of the advice that's coming in, and it's heavy in that direction, I'll say. But,
yeah, exactly.
Pickleback tweets in, the secret to driving with kids on long trips is the middle of the night. So it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about try to find that. But the schedule doesn't always allow that. It's just sometimes that's just not realistic with how that's going to operate. Michael Kirby tweets in, travel tip with kids. They smell fear, establish dominance. I mean,
all that's good. I could get on board with that. Unfortunately, I just am not feared enough, I guess, especially not by my 1-year-old. I'm wrapped around her finger. So, but I like the thought. I think that's probably the best advice we've gotten so far.
Greg Skipworth tweets in, travel at night or fly. Like we said, the nighttime schedule has to operate, and I'll just say this. Flying is no easier. No. And it's you do have some cool things to look at, and there's some cool things to explore, and that takes some of the attention, but there's a lot of headache with that, and it can be difficult. Tate tweets in, I drove from Mobile, but by the way, appreciate everybody listening to Mobile. Thanks for hopping on. Drove from Mobile, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 13 and a half hours. With my family and my daughter, who was 13 months at the time. We left Mobile at 6 p.m. so that a few hours into the trip would be the kids' normal sleep time. Got there around 8:30 a.m. Kids were just waking up. Somebody's got to take care of them, though, at 8:30. And that sounds hard. That sounds difficult. But it is a way to do it. And I can say this. I mean, some of these trips, like we did Pittsburgh a couple of times when I was a kid, and that was 14, 15 hours. My mom's family was from Wisconsin. We did Columbia, South Carolina to Wisconsin a couple of times. My uncle had the old school van like I don't know if you'd call it a conversion van, like basically the A-Team van, and the back seat like flipped down. It was like a flat bed, and he had a TV in there, which was like a little big black and white thing. Like he was rich, so it was good. But that was still long, man. Like there are only so many auto bingo cards you can run through when you're on a 13 to 15 hour car ride as a kid. Like it just. There comes a point in time when there's nothing. It's just awful.
We used to play that bingo like crazy. We used to play games like there was no tomorrow. But at some point, after about 3 hours, I'm probably a little over it.
There was always a couple of things on there that you just weren't going to find.
No, 100%. And it was so bogus because you had like 3 cards that you literally aren't going to win. Unless you live in Amish country in Pennsylvania, like the likelihood of me seeing a horse and buggy is incredibly small. And like 3 of the bingo cards had that. It's like, well, I live in Dallas, Texas. I don't think I'm going to see that. Like, so it used to be very frustrating for me as a child.
Did y'all have the one with the roundabout?
Competitor. We got roundabouts we could find.
I felt like we couldn't on the way. Like I had a couple of those, and I never won with those.
Yeah, this is the.
We had a couple roundabouts.
What is
I know that's a tough one.
Original one up right now, but that's like even before I can remember some of those things on that one. Trying to see if I can get like a good photograph of what these had on it back in the day that was so difficult to find. The original travel bingo cards.
Well, we used to have one. Remember the like the Grand Wagoneers that were wooden on the side?
Yep.
And we used to call them like woodies. Like we literally like the were just wood panels right up the side. And those were easy to find when I lived in California. And I was 6 and 5. But as I got a little older and we kept the same bingo cards, they weren't as easy to find anymore. So that wasn't very fun. We had punch bugs or slug bug or whatever. So we played that, which was always a good time, especially with the boys in the car. But those became less and less in vogue as well. That was tough. So yeah, I mean, some of those, depending on the style of car on the actual bingo cards, that became tougher as well.
I mean, this one's got a ladder.
What? You said a ladder?
A ladder?
Yeah. I mean, that's a do not enter
a fire
sign.
truck.
A yield sign, which if you're on, side roads, whatever, in a community, great. A no left turn. If you're on the interstate, you're done. You're not finding these. A bicycle. I guess you could see like people had bicycles packed on the back of the car. Yeah. If you're going to the beach, you're going to get those. Again, if you're in the country, you could dominate this. Tractor, barn,
silo,
haystack, silo. But if you're just on the interstate in, I don't know, going up the East Coast, you might not see those for a while.
Try living in DFW and finding a dang haystack. All right,
like in an airport.
Ladder should have been easy.
Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. Like, I mean, honestly, like the tractor was impossible, and like there was literally a horse. It was like a carriage. It's like the only place I've ever seen a carriage is outside the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Like I don't know where you even find that. Like I don't even know. Like unless you're driving through Central Park, you're not seeing that. Like, I just don't understand.
It is downtown Memphis. You can find that easy.
Yeah, that's true.
A two-way traffic sign. I love the little free one in the middle too. You always hit that one. Thanks, guys.
All right. They gave you one spot.
Appreciate it. Low clearance.
I won't be shut out today.
Yeah. I mean, some like mail truck. If you're on the interstate, you might not. That might be tough.
Tough.
So, man, that game was. Yeah, there was always a few that you weren't going to find. They just weren't going to be there. So, Damien, what are people texting in about how to manage your children on a long car ride?
A lot of people taking the medicinal route. Somebody said give them Benadryl.
And what else?
Yeah, people have said that on a plane, and like I don't know. I just have a hard time with it. I'm not like some super crunchy anti-medicine person by any stretch. Like I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is like I just have a hard time. Our kids have a hard enough time, like in a common flow of sleep, that giving them anything that would lead to them sleeping more, I think it could have the alternative effect where all of a sudden they're drowsy, but they still won't sleep.
Oh, well, you'll like this. I mean? You'll like this one then. They somebody else texted in and said, give them Ambien.
It's legitimately a controlled substance.
Whew. What are we doing?
I know because I've sold it, but And not on the street, for those that are imagining that.
I'm about to say,
Legally.
you might want to clarify. In a past life.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
Exactly.
The melatonin, I think, is more natural. I could see where people might want to go that route, but yeah, no. What is ALPRAZOLAM? It's got to be the scientific name for one of these.
No, dog.
Zola. What is this?
I have no idea.
Medline Plus.
Red line?
Alprazolam. Alprazolam?
Oh, yeah, that's like a, isn't that like a generic anti-anxiety?
I'm not 100%
Right,
sure. I've never heard of it.
Yes.
That's what Cubelic. That's what Luganbill would take on planes because he has a fear of flying.
Oh,
Really?
did not know that.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. No,
So
very
it's pretty
scared to
severe?
fly. No, I think he takes a real mild dose, but it just takes the edge off a little bit. I think alprazolam or whatever. I know what you're talking about. So, like,
So you can
yeah,
take that and be up on
But
recruiting.
there have been times in turbulence where I'm sitting next to Tom Luganbill on the plane, and his face, his body is turned 90 degrees to the left, and his full, he's got like a blockhead. He literally looks like one of the bad guys on Gumby. Like, he's got a blockhead, and it takes up the whole window, and he is literally staring at the window, making sure we're still in the air. So yeah, he gets very anxious on planes for sure.
If you were on a plane that was going to crash, would you want to know? I'm serious.
I
Like,
don't know.
would you want the shade down? First off, I think you'd probably feel it,
I think no.
Yeah,
especially
you know.
somebody like Tom, who, like us, flies, I don't know, 30, 40 times a year. So you'd have a pretty good idea where we're heading down.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could try to get in a last call or text. Would be nice to know. So you could text the family, call the family, tell them you love them one last time. I'm not sure. I would probably rather just be asleep.
Yeah.
And I don't want the guy
Well,
next to me waking me up saying, "Hey, we're on our way down."
No, I don't want cookies.
I was
Wait,
out,
go
man.
away.
Why did you do that?
Like, he taps you on the shoulder. Hey, man.
Don't tell me that.
No.
I mean, I don't know if I want to know that. I think I would know
I mean,
that.
there
I
was
would
one
feel
time
that,
where
but
there was one time I was going to the Senior Bowl, and I flew out of Charlotte, and we had to have like a legitimate emergency landing. The front tire popped on the plane, so we had no front tire. So we had to go by, buzz the tower, confirm. First of all, I was sitting pretty close to the front. It was a relatively small plane, as you can imagine. No first class. Like, it was just a small airplane. And it sounded like a gunshot went off when we took off. Like, you could hear I didn't know what it was, but we're all like, what the heck was that? And it was the front tire popping. And needless, one, we had too much fuel to land immediately. So we had to fly around in circles for a little bit to burn some of the fuel because it would have been too heavy for them to land. They also needed to confirm what the pilot thought it was, and that was that the front tire had popped. So we had to fly really low and I'm not kidding, kind of like Top Gun, buzz the tower so that they could kind of see with their binoculars if the tire was actually deflated, and it was. So they basically told us, hey, we have an emergency landing, and we had to brace for impact, and it was intense. So yeah, I texted Meredith to say, hey, I love you. If anything happens, I love you very much, and see you on the other side, I guess. I don't even remember what it was, but it was pretty scary, dude. It was awful. So yeah, I would like to maybe not know after having gone through that experience one time, because it was kind of bothered me for a while. Like, it took me a little while to get over it.
yeah, can imagine.
Yeah.
Pilot stuck the landing though. What a stud. It was sick.
All right, so that actually brings me to something that came across my Twitter feed a couple weeks ago, and I kind of debated, do we want to talk about this, or no, we probably shouldn't go there. I'm going to bring it up now just to see what everybody's opinion may be. And I'll ask the question before we go to break. What do you think the safest seat on an airplane is? We'll discuss it next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, so a topic that I wasn't really sure if we should hit or not, specifically with how much Greg and I both fly. Hamilton tweets in, dude, he said, can they not retract those wheels up into the plane and go down there and put a patch or some kind of repair on your plane tires? Confirmation of never flying again.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure that there was like a bike pump sitting around.
Little canister with the air thing, and you blow it into the tire, and it fills the
Hey, Billy
patch.
Mays here. Try this flex grip on an airplane tire. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but
you're landing at like 350 miles an hour. And it's like, sure, just patch it.
Well, just put a tire where it's going to land, and it lands on the tire.
Boom.
Yeah, it's not hard.
MacGyver land the plane. You'll be fine. Let me get Top Gun in here.
Hardcore.
Greg Skipworth tweets in, flew into Charlotte, and walking up the plane, I saw something fall off the nose, and we sat for an hour while it was repaired. I looked at the guy next to me and said, it happens all the time. I mean, it's happened to all of us. We've sat there and, mechanical issue. What is it? We don't know. I mean, it could be the tire fell off. It could be one of the seats doesn't recline. We never know what it is. Wandering Ranger says, yeah, use the belt before your trip. That's not for everybody, I don't think. Anthony tweets in, alprazolam is generic Xanax. Would be effective, but probably highly frowned upon. Well, I probably agree with that. Yeah.
Use booze. It's cheaper and easier. If you're going to do that.
Well, Ace Chill Smoke did say put Benadryl in their bourbon. So.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
in their bourbon?
In their bourbon.
Oh,
completely gone off the rails here.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
He said, Hamilton tweets in, no chemist has produced some kind of liquid rubber for airplane tire blowout. Not that I've read or seen.
Didn't Robin Williams and Flubber? And I don't think that worked out.
All right, so it brought me to this article, and I saw this when this happened because Greg and I fly a lot. I was like, should we talk about this on the show? And I was like, you know what? No, probably not. But now we're going to. The New York Post tweets an article out. This is on June the 12th. This was the Air India crash a couple months ago with one survivor who literally walked away from this plane crash. How you're feeling at that moment, I can't even fathom. But he was in seat 11A. According to the article, experts say 11A not the safest seat on a plane. 241 passengers did not survive this flight, but one passenger in seat 11A did. It was an emergency exit window seat just behind business class. So they're saying that once first class starts, can you go business class? And there's that exit row seat right there that's kind of in between the two sections. That's where he was. I would not think, first and foremost, window seat would have a higher survival rate. I don't really know why I think that, but just feels like there might be some debris and whatnot that you're probably dealing with. Not going to be what I would think is safest there.
I just don't feel like, as a guy that's a little bigger than your average person, wider, more broad, like I can't fit in a window seat. So if that's safer, it's just it just wasn't meant to be. Like I'm going aisle. I need comfort over safety.
Absolutely. The Federal Aviation Administration data that was analyzed by Time magazine in 2015 showed that the back third of a plane has the lowest fatality rate. But survival varies with the nature of the crash and where the aircraft absorbs the brunt of the impact. So essentially, we learned nothing from this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Feels like a crapshoot.
Daniel Kwasi Ajakum said, quote, it all depends on the crash dynamics. Thanks, Daniel.
Oh,
You
okay.
don't say.
So you're saying nose down, first class probably doesn't make it. Appreciate that.
Right. Okay.
He said passengers in aisle seats in the middle section of the cabin fared the worst, 44% fatality rate.
Well, there was Greg.
35 crashes they analyzed here. He said there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But that
I love that Cole has like this strange fascination with things like this. I would never click this article because it stresses me out so much. I'm already like scared to death.
Let's continue
and
the
have had
stress here. He notes that seats close to the plane's wings have more structural protection. That's great for emergency
that
rows.
makes sense, right? Yeah.
Because I'm in emergency rows a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what he would say. Would you like the odds of surviving?
No, I don't think I do.
Right.
It's about
Tempting,
1 in
but
13.7 million. So not great. I'm going to say when your eyes are that bad, who cares where you're sitting? Like Greg said, make it comfortable.
Yeah.
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 Just don't have extra damage to your knees on the way down.
What?
Your knees aren't
Yeah, I
jammed
really
up against
don't-
the
I
seat
mean,
in front of you on the way down. Just get
You know what?
comfortable.
That is true.
That's it.
On
Stretch out.
the verge of death, I'm really worried about my patella.
Yeah, just be comfortable.
Hitting up against the rear seat, the front. And I can tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not putting my tray table up either. I'm leaving it down.
Dr. Isaiah Hankel responded to the story. He said, here's where 11A was on the Boeing 787. Notably, a first-class seat, which had been shown in previous crashes to have a higher survival rate, as seats more toward the front, but not too close to the front, such as in this plane.
But okay.
When has a first-class seat not been too close to the front? I feel like they're always in the very front. But
Yeah.
Like they start the front. Like it's them.
yeah, and
Also
unfortunately, that plane had been deemed the safest of all passenger planes. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
So there you go. Emergency exit row seats, window. Which, once again, window would have probably been my last option if that's the only thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I always felt like
I would.
front was the best, but I've always kind of gravitated towards the back because I figure either the front or the back, because if you're in the front, you're near the communication equipment, you're near the pilot, you're near the people in charge that can kind of reach out. But if you're in the back, you're near the food. So if it does go down, hopefully on land and not water, you at least maybe have some of the food and can kind of
wait a
survive
second.
at that point.
When you rationalize surviving an airplane crash, like you're basically going castaway, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
no,
you're going to be on an
No, it's
island for 3
Lost.
months.
He watched Lost. I get it.
Like
And I feel
That's why
like,
I went more towards the front, because the front
I
people
just
survive
want to be able to
easier.
crawl out.
I agree.
I don't care about getting a ginger ale once I'm able to crawl out. Just allow me to be breathing still.
I would like that too.
But you
if it happens on
I'm
water,
looking for snacks
Grab a
when
cookie
this
real quick.
happens. Got
you
it.
obviously haven't seen Lost because
Can I get a couple Biscoffs when I get off this plane that crashed and I'm the only one breathing?
first off, that'll be the first thing I take.
Exactly. Comfort.
The whole
Like,
sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, comfort. I survived.
Give me a whole,
Daddy needs a cookie.
Yeah, give me a brick of those Biscoff packs, please. And we'll be good. Every one of them going
I'm
down.
about to say, if I'm living off Biscoff cookies,
We're good.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm having a
We're
pretty good
fine.
life in
we
paradise.
We are fine.
I'll make friends with a volleyball. I don't care.
not a care in
I
the
don't
world.
care at all.
And Wilson wouldn't
I'll
get
hang out with.
a
I'll
single
hang out
one
with
of them.
Willie.
No, man. Sorry.
Not today, Wilson.
Sorry, Voight.
I
Get
can
your
tell you
own.
My
this.
Biscoffs.
That's wild.
Yeah, I feel like Jack was sitting kind of near in the middle of the plane on Lost. The back ripped off on Lost,
Right.
And they all went.
They were the others, and they had it much more rough. The front, they landed on the beach.
Yes, on the first episode, the pilot was still alive. Remember, but he got eaten by the smoke monster.
Right.
There in the first episode. So you had two, front and back. I feel like Jack, along with like Hugo and Rose and all of them, like it all worked out pretty good right there in the middle of the plane.
Okay.
You know, Cole?
What I haven't seen Lost.
Same.
So I
Oh, my
can't
God.
I can't help.
Oh.
Sorry, I never watched it. I'm not saying I'm against it or anything. I never tuned in. I heard about it too
busy
late.
Watching Bow. I
That
can't
too.
watch.
That's right.
I'm not watching that.
And there are like 20 seasons of Lost.
Maybe 6
No, it's like
or 7, maybe.
7.
Justin Pace
after
tweets
season
in
4,
that,
it starts to get a little weird.
2.5 worth watching, but yes.
yeah. Justin Pace tweets in there was also another crash where the only survivor was 11A.
All right, I'll be in 11A from this point forward.
Sitting
You know
there
what,
trying-
but
only booking
12's my
flights that have
number.
11A
12's my lucky
available.
number.
No, I'll take 7
my lucky
connections
number. I
because I can
think
get
I'll
11A.
11A.
We're good. Jolly tweets in at Mac and Cube. Hey, Echo Cubic, you have a whole new side job potential. Charting plane seats and survivability. Airplane analytics. I need PFF on this, please. Not until PFF puts a graphic out of which is this. What is Delta survival rate seat rating? Until I see that, I don't believe any of this. I need a PFF graphic on airplane survivability rate percentage when flying, and then we're good.
Airplane analytics.
Yeah, if that's, that's.
I feel like that seems like a great off-season study for you.
What are the chances we have somebody listening right now that survived a plane crash? If you are and you're not calling this show,
that'd be wild.
We need you. Now's your time.
Well, I feel like my crash landing at Charlotte Airport was a pretty good plane. It kind of felt like one.
So you guys just
sounded like one.
You guys just like you skid down on the nose of the plane, basically.
Dude, yes, it sounded like.
I will say that's
like
one right
movies,
there where I would not have wanted to be towards the front of the plane.
Yeah, that's it.
No, like I was sitting literally first seat on the plane. It was not a good, comfortable feeling. But in the brace position where you have to literally like duck down, which to me doesn't seem like a safe way of going about it. Like I feel like diving into a pool, like you want to keep your head up, you want to see what's in front of you. Like you don't want to tackle somebody with your head down. So why we have to put our head down doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think the FAA is
for.
worried about you getting targeting call, but either way, yeah.
I don't know. I got a size 8.5 head or 7.5 head or whatever the heck it is. I don't know. I haven't bought a fitted hat in a while. I don't think that wall wanted a part of this dome at all. That would have been a problem for it. I do think I would have some neck pain afterwards, though.
Michael Kirby tweets in, then don't watch the movie Flight with Denzel Washington. I disagree.
Man, what?
I disagree because now I have confidence that they can be flown upside down.
Right, yeah.
Right.
While intoxicated.
Yeah, literally.
That should give you more confidence in what these guys are capable of.
And the way to slow yourself down is doing a barrel roll. I didn't know that was feasible.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like now there's a whole bag of tricks that we haven't even uncovered in these
God, that was a good
planes.
movie. We haven't watched that one in a minute. That's a good movie.
You want to after this?
Right.
You know, I might watch Sully. That'll give me hope.
Should be noted the kids in Final Destination were kind of in the center, so I guess that skews the that might skew the
That's a
demographic.
good
Well,
point.
hold on. They were supposed to be on the plane and didn't get on. So,
but they were
Yeah,
seated
but
in
they
the
were seated
center
in the
though, so
center.
center may still not. They were like exit row.
well, I'm just going to guess
but
based on the end
eventually
result of
death
that
got
one
'em.
that no one survived it.
It's part of it. It's part of the numbers.
Fair, but I wouldn't necessarily reference that as a crash.
I guess an explosion. I
Well,
guess
they are a
technically.
Yeah,
survivor.
a little different. I
don't know.
wouldn't reference them as survivors either, even though we're talking about a movie, so it's probably dumb no matter what. Okay,
don't know.
more. There's more feedback coming in. Maybe we have one more. There is one question that a listener asks us in reference to this that I do feel like we need to at least answer and have a conversation on. We'll do that right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, and this will bring up memories of one John Madden with what someone tweets into the show. Monday, June 30th, 8:35 a.m., 800-239-9569. You want to get in. Still waiting for that plane crash survivor to call into the show. Hasn't happened just yet. Cultured Guy 61 tweets in. This is not my burner account, by the way. At Mac and Cube. If the only survivor of that plane crash, how soon would it take for you to get back on the next flight? Which I guess Greg technically kind of is in this category.
Yep.
And has gotten on other flights. But a legitimate crash, like plane falling apart, whatever, it's probably not going to happen for me. I think that might be it. I'll go full John Madden.
You got Madden Cruiser going?
Something.
You're just straight bus after that?
I mean, you've heard me have the conversation before that like one of these Sprinter vans, if you could hire somebody to drive you around, that how much more efficient it would be to go from place to place, and you had somebody drive you and you could just work in the back the whole time. Like, obviously you got to find the person to do it, and then a place for them to stay wherever you're going. So it wouldn't be easy, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just interested in if that happened, John. Do you think you're going to fly again?
Probably not. No. Even if what happened to Greg happened to me, I'm probably looking for some. Yeah.
So, Damien, you're not on a flight again?
It took me a little while to get over it.
Nah.
You're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
That messes up your psyche, man. Like that's
I mean, I guess you have to know though that it's feasible, possible when you're getting on there to fly now. So, what's the difference? It can happen any other time. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe go private after that. Maybe you can work it out with like, hey, almost out in your airline, so maybe you can hook me up for a year or something like that.
Joe tweets in, Rockies play-by-play announcer Jerry Schimmel survived the UA Flight 232 crash back in 1989. I don't recall that one, but I mean, that's one where if you're flying with a team, that's a lot. Major League Baseball, a lot of flights during the course of a regular season. So
yeah,
cool. Okay, it'd be tough for me, but
I think I'm out on that.
But you already did it though.
Yeah, I mean, was mine really considered a quote crash? We didn't even get to ride the slides down the thing. We got to walk off the stairs.
Yeah, it's stairs though. I mean, you usually go right into the long tunnel of boredom though.
So, okay.
Yeah, we also had like, I mean, it looked like there were 17 police cars, 3 fire trucks, all down there. Like, golly, I'm glad I didn't realize like how dangerous this really was. Like, I really am glad to know that was not because I mean, it literally looked like we were. I mean, the fire trucks had they looked like they were ready for war. I mean, they had their fire hoses like aimed right at the front of the plane, like aiming at us and like walking us down. Like, am I about to get sprayed by a fire truck? Like, what's going on here? Is this run the risk of just bursting into flames right here on the tarmac? Like, what is the deal here? I mean, it was kind of weird. It was pretty troubling. I'm not gonna lie.
Colin Hansen tweets into the show, you guys need to listen to or read this story. This guy has no chance of survival, but even stayed conscious and called 911. No chance of survival, how a deadly plane crash yielded a growing spiritual harvest. We'll share the link for that to at Mac and Cube. Not sure a lot of be, but Jamie Bailey tweets in, buy the Sprinter van. I'll be your personal driver for as long as needed.
Hey.
You say that, but
we got a text in FJF. Cole, I am retired and would accept the job to drive you around places that you want to go.
For how much? And by the way, they're not want to go, need to go. Some may be want to go, but
you could probably get them a credential.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they'd be in games for sure. I think that would kind of be. They would become part of the crew.
Hope they like Lexington.
It's not a bad place to go.
How familiar are you, or how comfortable are you driving I-65 north?
It's not a bad town to be stuck in for a couple of days.
Maybe someone born in Lexington but has family in San Antonio.
Yeah. Home's away from home.
We haven't done the
Going
drive.
there anyway.
We haven't done the drive to old San Antonio yet, but it could be coming soon. The next question is, how much do you want? And how do you even negotiate that? Is it hourly? Is it? I mean, like Greg said, do you offset some of it if benefits are included, like getting into the games, standing on the sideline? Do you need a hotel to sleep? You sleep in the van? Like what? There's just a lot of factors there. It sounds super easy, but I don't think it would be.
But we would need somebody with a CDL. Like I'm not hiring some amateur to drive me around in my Sprinter van.
Why not?
Right? This has to be a pro.
A pro driving a van. I need an Andretti cousin.
I need to know that you have driven a minivan for at least 10 years of your adult life. All right. If you've done that, then you are qualified. So Cole is actually qualified to drive the Sprinter van, because he is a minivan driver.
I've logged many hours driving a minivan. Yes, absolutely. But, I don't know. I think it'd be cool. Like I said, I think it'd be a lot more efficient. You get a lot more done. Yeah. Not having to stick around after a game. Like you're getting to where you're going, and you can work a lot of the times while you're doing it. So, I don't know. Like Greg and I have had that conversation. Would it be more efficient? Would it be even more cost efficient? And then that's the other part too. Is like I don't know how much I will get reimbursed for that.
Yeah, I've looked into it for years. Like I've wanted an RV my whole life. Like I don't know why. I just think they're awesome. I think that they're just comfortable, and I like the idea of having my own space and it's being consistent, as opposed to 1 week you're at the La Quinta, the next week you're at the Homewood Suites, the next time you're in the Town Place Suites. Now you're 2 hours. I just want to park at the stadium, live at the stadium alongside the other trucks, and to be there with my RV.
You want to be John Daly?
You know what? I mean, of all the people that I aspire to be, he's probably not one of them. But I could get on board with like Romo and Aikman, and those guys all have their own buses. I mean, I'd like to do something like that, but their buses are probably a little nicer than the ones I could afford. I kind of want... I kind of just need one that has running water some of the time or a microwave. If I have those two things, I'm cooking.
So you wouldn't do the van. You're saying you would need like a motorhome.
Yeah, you need the RV, Sprinter van.
Yeah, we're going from like 60, 70,000 to 600, 700,000.
Okay, what motorhome are you buying? Captain Moneybags? Like what?
Well, hold on. Are you talking RV or motorhome? Because that's very different.
What's the difference?
Well, an RV you tow.
Well, no, I would say a Class A would be ideal. And that would be basically a bus. But those are a little prohibitive from a cost standpoint. I mean, a Class C would do just fine. And if we need to go Sprinter van, I'd do that as well. As long as there's a comfortable place for me to sit in the back and watch tape while en route, and or have a place to sleep upon arrival. If you just have a hose that connects to it, that can be my shower. I'm fine with that. I don't need much. I just need a place to shave.
It's actually not. I got a used 2016 Fleetwood for $63,000. These are a lot. I'm just saying these are less expensive than I thought. Motorhomes. I thought they were all in like the $1 million range, but I never priced them out, so I didn't know.
You're right.
I might be looking at a whole new deal here.
Oh, hey, you can actually rent some for like $200 a night.
Hey,
but then yeah. Also, what is the? I should ask Ben Hartsock this because he bought one of these. What are the rules of the people riding around from a seatbelt perspective when you're on the road? It's just free reign, right? You just move around.
I would imagine you're allowed. I mean, something happens. That's on you for not having your seatbelt, but.
I mean, I just don't feel like a lot of people sit buckled up in a motorhome when you're riding. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's encouraged that you buckle up, but I'm not sure that. Put it this way: you get in a wreck with a motorhome, I like the chances of the motorhome against whatever it is they're going against more often than not. So
yeah, but also like the chances of a motorhome rolling if you're in some sort of an accident, which is not great. If you're talking about being unbuckled or whatever it is, so. It's been a real happy 2 segments of radio here on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Yeah,
try to cheer it up a little bit on the other side.
Different.
Yeah.
I mean, it went in a lot of different directions. I mean, we went from, all right, how do we effectively get from point A to point B with children in the car, to then drugging your children, to then airplane crash survivor rate, to then, you know what, I might just forego flying altogether and get a Sprinter van, to now having a motorhome and determining whether or not you're actually safe in a motorhome without buckling up. So yeah, we've been on a really happy path in the last few days.
JTG Puro tweets in, aircraft tire hold 100 PSI, which actually doesn't feel that crazy because my Air Max in high school were 25 PSI. No, that's the only reference point I have.
Whew.
I think it was the Air Max 94. It's like it's at 25 PSI right there on the air bubble.
Yeah. Whew. All right then.
Chris is tweeting back in, wanting me to ask Greg the question he had for Friday, which may be more confusing than airplane survival seats.
Oh God.
But we'll do it next. Mac and Cube in the morning. Monday, June 30th, 8:49 a.m., Mac and Cube in the morning. Listen online at joxfm.com. The app is in your app store. You can download it for free. iPhone, Android. Go check the podcast there as well. Also, you can link to YouTube each and every day from the app. And don't forget, tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jox skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champs. They've won it 5 years in a row. That's a dynasty forming there in Coleman. Just off I-65, exit 310, Highway 31, and the deals that they have on their lot are off the charts good. It's unbelievable. Like a GMC Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate, $86,790 is the list price. They can get you in that vehicle for $71,790. It's deals like that keep people coming back. That's because you cannot find a better deal than that. It's the most beautiful truck on the road. That Denali Ultimate's the highest trim level. It's so nice, so luxurious, and also so functional with the high performance of General Motors. You're going to love your experience. I drive a GMC Sierra, not a Denali Ultimate, but I love my Sierra, and I know you guys will as well, and it makes it especially sweet knowing that that deal is the best they've ever offered. $15,000 off a truck is just unbelievable. So highly recommend taking the short drive up to Coleman. You can also go online and check out some of their savings right there as well by going to BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, I want to get to Chris's question from Friday, but first, a couple of offers coming in. Actually, Jamie Bailey tweeting in: make an offer, room to stay, meals, game access. Have driven vans and box trucks through Lexington and Atlanta. That's all you need. It's just
Okay.
Seems
room,
reasonable to me.
board, and get into games. Hell, I'll get you into coaches meetings. That's all.
Wow.
I'll get you into
Who
production
doesn't want
meetings.
that?
Right.
Come sit in the production meetings with us if you want. Put you right in front of the Zoom. Be right there in. All right.
Man, there's nothing more fun than that.
Yeah, you'll love it. Look up Alan McGee and Vesna Vudovic, persons who fell from planes breaking apart. 23,000 feet for McGee, 33,000 feet for Vudovic. And wait a minute, they made it or not? I don't see how they could have.
Right.
So I'm going to probably pass on that. Jody says, best way to travel with children, grew up traveling in a motorhome. Seat salts are not required. I think he meant belts.
Seat salt.
Or maybe saying bath salts for kids on long trips. I don't know. It's not the craziest thing we've seen offered up today. Chris Fields on Friday, Greg, called in and had a question for you. You were not here. He said, Cole, do you mind asking Greg for me the question I had for him last Friday about how the perception that Bama has become ladder Bill Goldberg, despite them still actively being competitive, having winning seasons? Why is that?
I don't think I understand the reference.
We didn't either.
What is ladder Bill Goldberg?
Probably
end of Bill Goldberg?
not indestructible, I think is what he's saying, is that for the first 137 matches, whatever it was in WCW, he wasn't going to lose, and they were very, very simple for him. And now, as he was later, when they actually made him become a real wrestler against real competition, that there were chances he was going to lose. And now people view Bama that way. That's my best guess. I don't know, but that's my assumption.
Okay, my impressions are of Alabama football in the near future, and this goes for everybody in college football. It's going to be more perennial dominance is unlikely. And when I say perennial dominance, every year you're winning at least 11 or 10. Because for a long, long time, you could almost just bank. All right, Bama's winning 10 a year. 10-2 is worst case scenario regular season. 11-1 is more likely, and 12-0 is probably even the most likely, at least there for a standard period of time. I don't think that's the case for anybody anymore. Everybody's thinner. Everybody has less depth. Everybody has young players that are filling out their roster. So in the event in which you lose one, you have a guy go in that might be a true freshman, and with true freshmen come significant swings in performance. So I put Bama in this category. I put Ohio State in this category. I put Georgia in this category. Georgia, guys, was a targeting call that was missed away from going 9-3 in the regular season last year, which is pretty mind-blowing when you really think about it, right? Texas lost a couple games last year that probably shouldn't have lost, right? They just, based on their personnel, because they did have an elite roster last year in some ways, but they had lost a couple games that probably, on paper, probably shouldn't have. I just think that we are in an era now where there's never been more parity. So people are going to have to start to acknowledge that a 9-3 year, a 10-2 year is actually a really, really good year depending on what your schedule looks like. I think you're very schedule dependent. I think you're very much dependent on having veterans on the roster. Ohio State last year lost a game to a Michigan team that they had no business losing to. Ohio State goes on to win the national championship, but it's just harder to be consistent nowadays. With the players, with the buy-in, with the chemistry, with the continuity, all these other things. I think it's a lot harder to be consistent. So therefore, we're going to have to rewire our brains to think, you know what? 9-3, 10-2 is a heck of a year. And a lot of people don't look at it that way because they're more aligned with 12-1, 13-1, 14-1, all these other things. That's not the case anymore.
Steven Isabel tweets in, Ladder Bill Goldberg referencing how Goldberg continues to get work at high level in WWE despite being a shell of what he used to be. The inference being that UA will always get benefit of the doubt no matter what actually transpires on the field. I actually think he means the opposite, that people are talking about Alabama as that Bill Goldberg, yet he thinks that they are still early Bill Goldberg. Once again, a lot of different ways this could go.
There's a lot of interpretations.
Right.
And it's up to you. We gave you ours. We'll try another one next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Craig Halbert going to join us here in just a moment of ESPN, talk some college football recruiting. Alabama on a bit of a hot streak right now. How? Why? We'll ask Craig here in just a moment. And the state of Alabama, obviously on a hot streak this time of year. As always, the heat and humidity can be brutal. Don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years, and they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. Remember, it's hard to stop a train. Craig joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Craig, what do you point to as far as this recent success the last week or two with Alabama and this heat wave of recruiting that they're on? A couple of five-star commits and really seeming to just build a ton of momentum.
Yeah, recruiting is interesting because there's really no one path that's the right path. And I think sometimes fans can get frustrated, especially when you have kind of the pedigree of an Alabama, especially under Nick Saban, how such a force they were on a recruiting trail, that to be heading into June with a small class, not even ranked in the top 25, could be panic-inducing. But, a lot of programs, too, will take their time. And June is key because it's really – and the reason why it becomes so active is because schools will wait to get guys on campus, to get to see them, to get official visits. So they obviously had a line on kind of who they wanted, but wanted to spend a little time for try to create a little bit of buzz and kind of get those dominoes falling. And obviously, I always say good recruiting starts at home. And, that's kind of the case there with Xavier Crowell, and they got a local linebacker there in Zay Hall. So they've kind of managed just well. I think, if fans get worried if you don't come out of the gate right away, but I think they've kind of played this well. And when you're coming off a successful season and really a couple of years, to say the least, of success, you can kind of play it a little bit slower and make sure you get the right guys in your class.
Well, looking at last year's class for Kalen Debor was really a national class more so than it was a deep South class with guys from California, several from California, from Vegas, from Texas, and very few, frankly, from the state of Alabama, and not many, frankly, from the Southeast. This year, it feels like it's kind of changed quite a bit. Now, you still see some guys from outside the footprint, with Max Sutter from Illinois and Sam Utu from California and J.J. Finch from Indianapolis. But it seems like they're making real inroads in the Southeast more so than they were a year ago. Is that just because of time? Why is that happening?
Alabama was always a national program. It wasn't unusual to see, that Saban-led team get into California, into Utah, out west. But I think a little bit, too, as you get into that job, I think you guys know better than me there, but I think we were all caught a little bit off guard when Saban stepped away, and it was kind of a quick transition. And Debor and some of that staff, and not all of his staff, he obviously kept some guys on board. But, he was a West Coast guy. From Fresno to Washington, and that's kind of, I think, when you're out of Washington, you're at those schools, the way you're going to attack recruiting is going to be a little bit different. You're going to stay a little bit more in your immediate footprint. Obviously, Washington has some national pull, but that's really not where you're going to kind of make your hay. So now you make a transition to Alabama, and you're looking at it from a little bit of a different lens, but your comfort level as a staff, as a recruiting staff, maybe a little bit more with some of those players out west. So you're going to kind of lean towards where in the evaluation process you feel like you have the best grasp on those players, and maybe you have a little bit more of a comfort level in the guys that you have. So I think, that's a lot of it. And I think the big offensive tackle that they pulled out of California was the perfect example, Jackson Lloyd. I think he had been offered and seen at a camp by Debor before he even got to Washington. So that was a relationship that went really back. But there, it was outside of the Alabama immediate footprint, but there's an offensive tackle that a lot of people are expecting big things from. So I think now with a little bit more time on the ground, a little bit more boots on the ground, a little bit more time to ingratiate yourself to the local community, you start to maybe and get a little bit more comfortable with the prospects that you're seeing. Now maybe you're starting to see a shift a little bit closer to home.
Craig Halbert of ESPN, recruiting expert, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Who of these recent commits for Alabama should fans be most excited about, just based on what you believe their potential or ceiling is?
Listen, you got to always kind of start right at the top with Griffin. You got a linebacker with his type of length and range. He's that, outstanding kind of edge type player that is so coveted now in the game. We know the history at the running back position that they've had at that position to get a back that's over kind of 200 pounds at his type of blend of speed and power. I think that's a home run, pun intended type, pickup for them. Sam Utu out of California, a big tackle, kind of bends well. He's one of the few guys I haven't had a chance to kind of see in person. And I think the Tamela kid they picked up, they were able to flip, is a nice quarterback to kind of develop. I think we've seen in this landscape now in college football, your quarterback would never be deep enough because you never know what's going to happen.
How would you assess where kind of switching course here a little bit? How would you assess where Auburn's at right now? A lot's been made of their, I guess, less than stellar recruiting class. I think it's a little early, frankly. I don't think anyone really knows what it's going to look like until we get to December. And right now to have commitments is awesome. I'd love to have them, but I don't feel great about it until they finally sign on the dotted line there early in December. So where can Auburn go and hopefully improve on the class that they currently have assembled?
I think the best way, Greg, for them to improve on the class that they have right now is to turn things around on the field, right? I think, listen, there's no doubt Hugh Freeze can recruit. He's always done a great job. That 2025 class, I think, has some impact-type players in it with a Blake Woodby and Fegan. So I think he's proven that he can recruit. But now with some of the programs that you're going around, you look at maybe, for an example, like a Florida. Florida's really starting to pick up some momentum on the recruiting trail as well. They've been pretty hot this June. They finished really strong last cycle. That was also kind of a little bit spurred by a strong finish on the field. I think some recruits want to see or waiting to see if Auburn actually turns it around on the field. And I think if you see them get up to a hot start or put together a really strong 2025 class, you could see they could be this year's Florida in a recruiting cycle. If they don't, then it could be a real struggle for them on a recruiting trail in the class that they have now, which is kind of still in the single digits, may struggle a little bit to come around a little bit, and then you got to turn really heavily to the portal. So I think if you're Auburn, you're right. There's always a chance to turn it around. There's always the old expression, recruiting is a marathon, not a sprint. But I think a lot of it has to do with, I think a lot of recruits are just waiting to see where Auburn goes on the field and if they can kind of take some of that talent and turn it into wins.
Craig Halbert is the ESPN College Football National Recruiting Coordinator. He's with us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Maybe not the abundance for Georgia, but the quality does not seem to be slipping at all. I think you can make the argument they have number one players at two positions, defensive line now and quarterback. Where do you assess this Georgia class thus far with what Kirby Smart and his staff have been able to haul in?
Yeah, listen, they have been an absolute staple. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's like I think this would be 9 straight years that if they can move up one more spot from where they are right now to finish with a top 3 class. And when you're recruiting that consistently at that high of a level, you're gonna always have great players, and it's also going to make it a little bit tougher sometimes to squeeze in players. They don't necessarily have a ton of turnover, but I think the big one was getting Curtis back in the mix. I think that at the quarterback position, as good as they've been on the field, the quarterback position has been a little bit weird. I think the last few years, I think when you look at some of the 5-star type players that they've had at kind of linebacker and along the defensive line, and you think, well, maybe they haven't necessarily had that type of quarterback in recent years. I think Curtis can be there. I think the big thing for Jared Curtis as he makes that transition to the SEC is playing in Tennessee. He's been very successful. He's got a wow type release, but he's also plays in really small classification. So, I don't think necessarily Curtis is the guy who comes into college as a plug and play guy unless he can really kind of make that jump I know, Greg, you came out of high school and you played at one of the premier programs in Texas, and you probably on a weekly basis, even though you didn't really get a chance in your senior year, you got an opportunity to kind of play against college level talent on a weekly basis. I think that makes a difference as opposed to maybe on a week in, week out basis. You're not necessarily playing against guys, 95% of them are going to not be FBS type players. So I think that's something to watch with Curtis, but in terms of physical tools, he's got them all over the place. And they've always been great in the secondary. And Justice Fitzpatrick, who's the younger brother of Minka Fitzpatrick, he's got great length. Ford out of IMG, to talking about playing against great talent. He's used to it. I think he's a big hitter. So they've done really nice in the secondary. And Brady Marquise, they lost a wide receiver, Flip, to Miami, but the Brady kid from in-state, he can absolutely fly. We've measured him on film, getting close to like around consistently 22 miles per hour in gameplay. So that's a big play target at that receiver position.
Is there really a path for USC to continue on this surge? I know Georgia's kind of nipping at their heels, but I just kind of big picture, SC's been a program we're all kind of wondering about, like, where are they going to be? What are they going to do? Why is it that it's just not working out? And yet here they are with the number one class, according to a bunch of different publications. So will SC finish at number one, do you think, by the time we get around signing day in December?
Yeah, I think you could almost look – I can answer this in the same way, but from the other end of the spectrum, from Auburn. I think if USC finally kind of delivers, as you were kind of alluding to, on the field that we may expect maybe from the the Pete Carroll era, then this thing stays together. I mean, it's a big class. They've done an outstanding job. Obviously, they're based out west, but they've got some players in Texas, New Jersey. If they can get out in the field, make it to the college football playoff, then I think there's no reason why this class, for the most part, doesn't stay together and likely finish number one. You're right. A&M's pushing them, Notre Dame, Georgia. We were just talking about Ohio State's always staple in the top five. How Alabama's getting hot. There's certainly going to be some pressure on them, but every time it seems like a Georgia or Notre Dame, Ohio State adds a player or two, USC seems to always add a player as well and be able to stay in that number one spot. And I think that this class kind of running the table, making it to number one, finishing at number one, has a lot to do with what type of progress they make on the field. They get to the college football playoff, start to show that they're really back and a national title contender. And USC, we all know, can be a juggernaut.
Craig, what are you seeing with the calendar? Because this weekend just felt like a really busy weekend. And I don't know what the rhyme or reason is for that. But we know with the portal, things have changed. We know, obviously, with guys being able to move, they want to secure their roster spots. Less high school guys maybe getting offers. But what's been the biggest change you've seen in the last year or two with the calendar as far as guys committing, guys getting to school, guys making decisions?
June's always been busy. I call it kind of recruiting tax season. It's like when everybody kind of is getting on campus. So June, and then you're going to see it stay pretty busy, Cole, for like another 2 weeks. If you look, there's a lot of kind of key guys set with announcements kind of right around the 4th of July, leading into it or just coming on the other side of it, including the number one player in the country, Lamar Brown, who I think is scheduled for like July 10th. So this has always been a really active time. I think a lot of players have kind of taken the spring to kind of get on campuses. So this is not surprising at all. We're always kind of bracing for a busy June as this is really kind of the time where a lot of kids find where they're going to land. But, with the portal, it's different. You're still seeing, we just talked about, USC's at about 30 players. We're still seeing, I think, a lot of the prominent programs understanding and kind of pushing their chips into, you kind of got to build a foundation through youth. There's going to be a lot of movement, but I think the longer or the more of your roster that comes and starts through your program and you can kind of build a culture with and kind of build them through your way and not maybe just get them in for a season or two or coming from someplace else, I think is ultimately the long-term success. And we've seen programs like Arizona State use the portal very well. They went really heavily. A lot of focus was on what Colorado did a year ago, but Arizona State was very much in the same mold. But they were able to kind of get that into production, but now they're going back heavy into high school recruiting. So the portal is kind of interesting. We see some programs, and you're right. I think it hurts the high school players that maybe are a little bit down, that next tier down, that maybe 15, 20 years ago would have been fall offers. Maybe now no longer kind of get that chance from the portal. But a lot of the players that we're talking about in June in the ESPN 300 and the 4-star, they're still coveted, and you're still seeing a lot of programs like a South Florida is still going heavy high school, probably knowing if some of those guys pan out, they may lose a few in a year or two, but maybe one or two stay. But and also maybe not the same type of finances they got to put into it as they got to put into the portal. So I think a lot of programs too on how you build a roster, whether it's recruiting a portal, sometimes maybe about, what you have available to be able to go out and use the portal, or how maybe you, and I think for some of the more established programs that may have that method, like a Georgia, an A&M, in Alabama, they have the resources to be, but I think in a big picture, understand that if they're going to be successful, it's going to start with recruiting guys into their program from the beginning.
Craig, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us, shedding some light on a big recruiting weekend, and we know there's more coming. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Always. Thanks for having me on, guys.
There you go. Craig Halbert, Director, National Recruiting Coordinator for ESPN. Big weekend for Alabama, big weekend for a couple of other schools. Get you updated on those and talk preseason routine next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. Monday, June 30th, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. A lot of recruiting conversation today based on some of the things that happened over the weekend, and it was a big weekend for more than just Alabama. When you look at some of the commitments that were rolling in, Alabama did well. Missouri got a commitment from 6'4", 315-pound offensive lineman Brandon Anderson out of Kennesaw, Georgia. So a big pickup for Mizzou there. Michigan had a big weekend. 5-star edge Carter Meadows committed to Michigan, 6'6", 235 pounds. Highly sought after. A lot of different schools interested in his services. Tennessee had a nice weekend as well. 4-star athlete Legend Bay commits to Tennessee, 6 foot 185 from Forney, Texas. Quote, with my 10-1 speed in the spread offense, I trust Coach Hype will be able to use me right. I mean, it's not bragging if you got it, right? I guess. So.
Hey, if you got it, flaunt it.
Clemson gets a commitment from 4-star defensive lineman Keyshawn Stansel, 6'4", 275. So another D-line commitment coming in there for Clemson. 6'3", 305-pound defensive lineman from Philly, Cameron Brickle II, commits to Ohio State. It's a big pickup there for the Buckeyes. 6'5", 320-pound offensive tackle from Windsor, Colorado, Deacon Schmidt, commits to Oklahoma. It shows the Sooners over Colorado and Alabama. And Georgia, as I mentioned, gets James J.J. Johnson, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country. So that gives him the number 1 quarterback and number 1 defensive lineman committed right now. So big weekend for a lot of schools. Texas A&M commit 4-star wide receiver Madden Williams says his recruitment is now shut down. When did we need graphics for that? You're committed, but you got to have another graphic that says no more recruiting. It's over.
Need commitment or graphics for this? Probably never. When have we had it? Like 4 years, feels like.
Okay. 4-star offensive lineman Malachi Lee has committed to Michigan, 6'7", 320 from Kaneohe, Hawaii. So big, literally big commitment for Michigan there. As they also get a commitment from 2026 linebacker Markel Dabney out of Richmond, Virginia, 6'1", 210. So just a big recruiting weekend all the way around. Ohio State gets 4-star defensive lineman Damari Simeon, 6'3", 290, out of Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. Number 7 defensive lineman in the class, according to some. So a lot of guys committing over the weekend. It was busy, and a lot of schools sort of racking up, getting ready for the season, getting some of that recruiting out of the way. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. Wanted to ask your thoughts on this as one of the premier preseason college football magazines made its debut over the weekend, Phil Steele, and that's a must-have for a lot of different people. Some folks have moved on. Some folks have different magazines that they must have. When we're talking preseason routine, Greg, as far as publications, viewing, things that you have to begin your preparation for the season, what are those things for you?
Man, honestly, I don't know about you. And I mean, I think doing this show, doing podcasts, doing TV, all this other stuff, it's kind of amazing to me how little I feel like there's cramming needed to head into the season. Like, I think the magazines are amazing. They're an amazing resource. But the problem that I've found with the magazines now is that they can at times not be up to date anymore. Like, for example, what's going on with BYU's quarterback Jake Retzlaff. Like, he's penciled in as a starter. And that's a high-profile one, but there might be some others. When these things go to print, they're outdated. And that, I think, is an impossible – I don't know what you do as a magazine publisher. I mean, I'm still buying them. So hopefully it's not affecting their business, but there can be some inaccuracies that are a little uncomfortable for me to kind of work around. But I don't know with you, but it's really now about this time, July 1st-ish, when I start to really kind of hit the ground running. I started watching tape probably about 2 weeks ago, started to kind of ramp that up. Going to watch a bunch today, actually, in preparation for Big 12 Media Days next week. But it's a fun time of year, because everybody's undefeated and everybody's feeling pretty good about what they got.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I have to have all of them. I see them in the store. It's like, I mean, right here, Lindy's Athlon. If you're watching on YouTube, like, I just have those, and then like I'll probably go find the Phil Steele today at like one of the Barnes and Nobles that I'll have to drive way out of our bubble for, as my wife would say, all the way over there.
Hoover? Oh,
I know. Even on her birthday, I'm going to drive way out there to be able to find one. But I don't know what I think I'm missing. Sometimes I do like to look at some of the different rankings or lists to just compare and contrast, see like who maybe likes this person or that person. As you stated, Greg, some of the depth charts are very different between magazines. And there's no way to change them once a guy leaves or once a guy's not there anymore. There's nothing you can do. You can go in there and liquid paper it yourself, I guess, if you wanted to. But I guess I'm kind of crazy like that. Like I feel like I have to have every one of them. And I always try to get out there and just scour these and look through. I don't know exactly what I learn, if I learn anything. I just think it's like this safety net to have them, just to say that I've breezed through it or looked through it, or if I want to go reference something in one of them, I can because it's there and I know I have it. But I have this sort of just weird desire to have every single one of them. And it's not like I'll read every page of them or dive through all the articles. I don't think I read any of the articles. But just more on the team stuff of, what people have, what people think about other teams, and maybe it'll make me look at it a different way. But I'm a little crazy like that, where I feel like I have to have every single one of them that comes out. Noted. John? Do you feel like you have to have all of them? Is there one specifically that you have to go get, or like where do you go with this as far as preseason magazines are concerned?
The one I have to have is Phil Steele's. That's the one I make sure that I get because not only do I don't fully read it cover to cover, but I read a fair amount of it. But also during the season, I write down all the scores in it too. So
you showed us that last year. I forgot that.
Yeah,
and
I forgot. That's a good deal. The one thing I like about Phil Steele's is it's all on 2 pages, so there's no flipping. So it's all right in front of you. You have the problem with Phil Steele's, and which is why I haven't purchased it in a while, a couple years now, is because I cannot read it. Like it's written in shorthand in many cases, and I have a hard time. My brain doesn't work that way. So like when I see SY and I'm like short yardage, like what is, you know what I mean? Like I struggle with just some of his shorthand. Cole, do those bother you or John?
I mean, I get it, but I feel like I've been reading it long enough to know what like a lot of the stuff, like he uses a lot of things like that stand for ALYs last year and all the other stuff. Like I feel like I know most of it now with the portal. I think it's changed a little bit, but it's a little tedious, but I think I have enough of an idea of what it all is to still be okay with it.
Which is also why the only time I really read it is like the week or two that I get. It's like, all right, this is the first time I really kind of dive in. He's the first person I read, but then I'll go and read others and not revert back to it. It's like, all right, once I read it, if I know it, I know it. If not, I know I can pick it up somewhere else. Because even if I don't understand quite what it is, I know I'll read it somewhere else and be like, all right, I'll get Lindy's or someone else. It's like, okay, all right, that's what you mean. All right, that's fine. Because I feel like there's so much in there, especially with his, that not only do I want to take it in quickly, but also it could be dated 2-3 weeks from now. So it's like, let me just read kind of where we're at now, and then I'll pick up more as the season gets closer.
I don't know why it is, but for me, the way that Phil has his depth charts laid out is the easiest to navigate. Like if I want to go see what people have at a certain position and I'm a little bit unsure, if I need to go see BYU's quarterback situation, like his is the easiest to navigate. Go see it, find it, and get it. Maybe it's the layout too, because I think you have, it's not conferences, it's all teams in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Some are the top 25 first, and then it gets to conferences. So the layout for his is just a little bit easier for me to manage also. I will say there was one of these two, doing some research yesterday, that a certain team's starter, like known starter at a certain position, if you listen to my podcast yesterday, you know what position that is, did not have said player on their depth chart. Done. Will not be purchasing that one next year. Well, you can not have him first team, but to not have known starter in every other publication on your depth chart, it's time for us to move on. We're moving on.
What position, though?
Linebacker.
That's kind of an important one. If it was right guard,
inside too, so not like one of these will linebacker deals where it might be a safety or they call him Cheetah or whatever it is, or Joker or something it's. He's the guy.
Not one you can miss.
He's the guy at that position, and I was like, they don't think he's going to start. Oh wait, he's not on their depth chart.
Well, that's a tough one to stomach. The other thing, I would think that maybe that publication knows something we don't. Maybe that guy's entering the portal and we don't know it yet? Like, is that possible?
Yeah, dangerous assumption there.
I don't know.
I guess if you want to try to project that out and you want to take that chance, go for it. But, yeah, we'll see.
I've found that the most beneficial resource for me when it comes to depth charts is Our Lads. They do a pretty good job of keeping it up to date. They don't bat 1,000 by any stretch, but I don't know anyone that does. The magazines to me are becoming less and less. They impact my evaluation less and less. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of already have my own interpretation of how I see the season going. I used to be heavily influenced by what the magazines would say. I don't think I'm as influenced anymore. I think I can use the magazines appropriately and use the magazines as a resource, but I don't often allow the magazines to impact my judgment on a specific team. Are you in the same boat there?
Not necessarily, because I just think there's something about holding it and having it. I don't know what that is. Instead of navigating a website and kind of going through electronically, maybe it's just tradition. Maybe it's just happenstance that I've always done it. It's probably not super necessary. I've done Phil's digital one before on my iPad, and it's just not the same.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go have
find
it.
stuff though. I'll say that is kind of nice. Being able to find stuff rather quickly when it's digital, because you can just do a Control F and you're good to go, or Command F and you find it. You know, like, I struggle a little bit finding exactly where it is I'm trying to go when looking at, you know, some of these magazines. Like, I can't find a page. Like, you and I are talking about, I don't know, Kansas State, and I can't find them. I know it's in alphabetical order in some cases, but I can't find them. I also don't love having them. I don't love having them open on the desk. You know what I mean? Like, I like typing things into my computer. It allows me to typing it helps me remember it. So I don't like having the magazine open on the desk. I struggle with that. I lose my place and I can't keep up. So I'm better off kind of going through, making some notes out of the magazine into my own notes, and then I can better kind of figure out who's doing what.
Yeah, that does make a little bit of a difference, but it's interesting. Y'all tweet in at Mac and Cube. What is your sort of preseason routine? What you have to have, what you go through, what do you like to watch? What do you like to make sure that you get your hands on? Let us know what that is, and we'll continue talking it on the other side. First, I'll tell you about your CBD store. If you are looking for products to help you sleep just a little bit better, if you're looking for a product to help you with arthritis, maybe your pet has arthritis, you or your pet have anxiety, they have products that can help. At the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world, they focus their attention on being the best plant sciences company out there. Hundreds of different extracts and plants. They work hard to find the ones that work best. Your CBD store, first company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on those products, so they meet and achieve a certain set of standards and tests. Visit one of their 3 locations: Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459. Your CBD store, where good health hits home. We'll continue talking preseason routines and a couple other items that I've yet to get to today right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, talking college football. Appreciate everybody chiming in today via Twitter, via the text line. He Trade Me tweets in, at Mac and Q, best magazine is that feel still 042. The amount of information you get is elite, plus holds a special place in my childhood memories because I used to get it and gather with my friends to name their rosters for old NCAA games before you had the real roster names.
Ooh.
Just buy the memory chip or whatever it was.
Some people want to do a manual, man.
No, nobody had that much time on their hands.
There's so much time.
Let's go to the Higginbotham hotline. Welcoming Greg in Athens wants to talk college football. Welcome in, Greg.
Hey, good morning, guys. My go-to magazine when I was in high school was Street and Smith. I just thought they were really good, and I don't think they exist anymore, but that was mine. The question I had was about recruiting and quarterbacks, and Greg, as a quarterback, I'm a teacher, and so I'm always trying to learn something new. So when teams are recruiting quarterbacks and your head coaches are offensive-minded and they run a particular offense, can you recruit any kind of quarterback to run any kind of offense, or are you looking for a more specific skill set?
I think it's definitely more specific skill set. I think, for example, to best run the offense that Kalen Debor likes to run, having a guy that likes to push it down the field, having a guy that understands intermediate and deep ball accuracy is paramount. All that's really impactful. But I also think that there's certain skills that guys prioritize. Like if you were to ask Cole Cubelic, what are the 5 most important characteristics of a highly efficient, highly productive college quarterback, it might be very different than the 5 that I would put forth. If you were to ask Josh Heupel, what are his 5 things that he values most at the position, he also played at the position. He's coached, obviously, high-level college football. It might be very different than the 5 things that Eli Drinkwitz values. Everyone's interpretation of quarterback play is remarkably different. There are probably a handful of players that are just transcendent. You know what I mean? Where it doesn't matter what system, doesn't matter what you do with them, they're just going to be great. But let's be real, would Peyton Manning have been as good as Peyton Manning eventually became if you weren't giving him the freedom to make audibles at the line of scrimmage? No, probably not. What made Peyton elite is that he was the smartest person on the field, including the coaches, and had recall and information available to him that he could change things at the last possible second that would allow an easy matchup to be taken advantage of. It's just, I think it kind of depends a little bit on it. If I'm evaluating quarterbacks, number one, you got to be accurate. If you're not accurate, you're dead. Honestly, that is by far the most important quality and characteristic by a mile. Number 2, you have to be tough. I can't have a weak quarterback, mentally or physically. You have to be tough as nails. All right? 3, I think you have to have some levels of mobility. I don't think you need to necessarily be a guy that runs around like Lamar Jackson and can create and extend plays and turn 8-yard losses into 80-yard touchdowns, but a guy that can get you 4 or 5 first downs a game with his legs, the threat of his legs being able to get you 4 or 5 first downs a game is paramount. I also think you need a guy that can process information quickly. If you can't process, you just can't play quarterback. You just can't. It's too important, too much a part of the conversation. Then 5, I need my quarterback to be a legitimate leader. Like he has to have leadership qualities. He has to have an alpha dog mentality. If you are not an alpha playing the position, you will not be successful. You have to flirt with arrogance, just a little bit of arrogance, but you need to at the same time be remarkably confident in your own skill set, because there's going to be moments in the game in which you get embarrassed, you get hit, you make a mistake. You have to be able to play the next play. And if I don't have a guy that has leadership qualities who can walk in the huddle unfazed with what happened the previous play, then it's going to be hard for me to really trust my guy to be out there.
So there you go with Greg's quarterback traits that he's looking for as far as what he wants in his college quarterbacks. If you know what you're looking for in a new home, Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group can help. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now. You'll see a button in the top right-hand corner of the page. Smash that button, very little information. They're going to be able to tell you what they think they can get for your home right now. Maybe you want a home that might not be on the market yet. Gusty knows which homes are coming available soon. Why? Serves more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold since 2012. Over 855-star Google reviews. So just do this. Google Gusty Goulas Group. See for yourself. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com or call 205-542-1996. That's GustyGoulasGroup.com or 205-542-1996 today and start packing. All right, get to a break. Come back with the bad box score of the day next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Pretty big trade news from the NFL as the Miami Dolphins have agreed to trade three-time All-Pro corner Jalen Ramsey to the Pittsburgh Steelers. As a part of the trade, Ramsey will get $1.5 million raise this season, bringing his 2025 compensation to $26.6 million.
Okay.
That corner. It's amazing. He's a great player. He can do so many things for you, but man alive. Him and Minka in the backfield in the back end.
Woo.
Pretty good.
Just got to score some points.
Y'all got Aaron Rodgers.
He's got to score some points.
DK Metcalf.
Got to score some points.
Y'all going to the
Up
Super
next
Bowl,
on
bro.
First Take. Up next on Get Up and First Take. Is Aaron Rodgers holding back Pittsburgh's defense?
Over under NFL passing yards this year. Dylan Gabriel or Aaron Rodgers? Today on First Take. I might go Gabriel. Sorry.
That's a great pick.
If you ask me right now, I think he's going to get broken at some point this year. Sorry.
Yeah.
Guy's fragile,
He ain't
man.
ready for the AFC North.
You can look at him and tell he's fragile. The guy hasn't touched a weight in a decade.
You don't need weights anymore. You need bands.
We're throwing him out there in the AFC North, though. Good luck.
It was hilarious to see him and Jake from State Farm together, and you're like, no, it's the other guy that's in the NFL, not the guy with the arms. It's the other guy.
All right, let's get to quickly a bad box score of the day in just a moment. First, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're looking to feel better, if you feel on edge, maybe if you're lacking sleep, lacking energy, Game Day Men's Health can help you. They've helped a lot of other folks in our listening area. They want to help you as well. It's easy. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Right there, you sign up for a free consultation. You'll get a free PSA test, free testosterone test, and they're going to know where your health is, and they're going to present different options to help you out. Testosterone replacement, peptides, also different weight loss programs that Game Day Men's Health can help you with. Holistic approach to health and wellness. They got a great environment there, locker room feel, not going to try to push you into things that you don't need, and minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. Save 10% on anything by mentioning that you heard them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and sign up for that free consultation. We all know the ELF Football League, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, everybody knows the European League of Football, which is where we're going to go for today's bad box score of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
All right, we'll start off with the Paris
Panthers.
No.
Paris.
No.
Let's go with the Pirates.
Musketeers.
Oh, okay. That tracks.
And they just snuck past the Cologne
Colonels.
No.
Eels.
No.
Colonels.
They're the Conquistadors.
Centurions.
Oh.
Conquistadors would be good.
The Fallout song. Okay.
A little more south
Fall
for
Out
that
Boy,
one.
excuse me.
Paris gets to 4-2. Cologne, well, they're 0-6.
Tough year.
62-0 they went down over the weekend.
That is a tough year.
Yeah.
Not great.
Well, the problem was, if you're talking first downs gained in the game, well, Paris had 9 through the air and 15 on the ground.
Okay.
Not only did they ground, they pounded. Cologne had a first down passing and 2 more rushing.
Okay.
Nice.
That's a good first quarter.
They were just overmatched.
Now, they did get 2 penalties via 2 first downs via penalty.
All right.
So
Capitalize on mistakes.
That puts their third down efficiency at just 2 of 11.
Ouch.
Yikes.
Paris was 6 of 9 on third down.
That's where they got them.
All right, now I need you to listen to this one closely.
Oh, boy.
Your passing yardage differential for the game was 200 yards. It was 256 to 56.
Oh, okay.
Your rushing differential, 281 to 3.
To what?
To 300?
281 to 3.
3 yards rushing.
Yeah, for the game. Yeah.
Wait, hang on a second. Does sack yardage count towards loss of rushing?
Hell if I know.
I don't think it matters either way.
Right.
281 rushing yards for Paris, 3 for Cologne.
Stifling defense, man.
Needless to say, they didn't make a red zone trip in the game.
No?
Where can we watch these games?
That's a great question because I would be all in. I do think they
honestly
stream
feel like I
some
need to see
online, but Friday or I guess it'll be Wednesday when we get to our Super Sofa games of the week.
Yeah,
I'll try to find
I'm
that.
trying to see.
Yeah, because I really want to watch one of these. Because every single one, there must be like just a couple juggernaut teams, and everybody else is terrible. Because they come up really, really often.
Although that's pretty good to have 3 yards rushing, but 1 first down off rushing. So
Yeah.
there's your positive.
No, it isn't.
There you go.
It's not. It's not a
Look, I
positive
tried.
at all.
One of those third and
I
ones.
tried.
Also not positive
less positive things.
was K. McCormick Reamer, no relation to Corey, passing for Cologne, 9 of 15, 46 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked 5 times.
Okay. Okay.
But if you wanted to know if that played into or not, Jay Luker, also quarterback in the game, 2 of 7 for 10 yards, sacked twice. But M. Merwarth ran 2 times for 5 yards. M. Whites ran 9 times for 2 yards. That's not a quarterback, by the way. That is a running back with 9 carries for 2 yards in the game.
Well, we got to check their offensive line, Cole. Like, that sounds like they had a...
Sounds like they struggled just a little bit. Paris in Kandahar ran 12 times for 131 yards and a touchdown.
In Kandahar? Wow.
Kandahar. They had 4 players average over 7 yards per carry in the game.
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
We'll take
Efficient.
Not bad at all. Also,
efficient.
not the only game that we're going to go to over the weekend.
Oh, boy.
The Madrid.
They are the...
Are they the Surge?
No,
No, they're not.
No, they're the... I want to say they're the
Minotaurs.
Panthers. They're the Panthers.
They're the Bravos.
Okay.
So when y'all get cute and be like, well, did you watch the Bravos last night? You didn't watch the Madrid Bravos last night. They just snuck past the Hamburg.
They're the Hawks.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not.
They're the Surge.
Close. Sea Devils.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the
Sea
old
Surge.
Sea
Oh,
Devils.
that's
Madrid gets to 4-2. Hamburg gets to 2-5. By the way, we did miss out on a potential all-timer here as the Helvetic Mercenaries 0-5 took on the Nordic Storm 5-0, yet that game was postponed. We can only imagine what that game would have given us. We can only imagine.
I assume maybe sheep on the field or something.
What that would have left us. Madrid just snuck past Hamburg 57-0 over the weekend.
A lot of shutouts.
Well, just
Notice
some
in the trend.
teams can't score at all.
Are these the Steelers? What's happening?
Your first downs in the game, 27 for Madrid, and Hamburg mustered up just 9 first downs total in the game. Your passing yard differential, 405 to 124. Rushing differential, 168 to 82. This actually doesn't sound that bad based on our first game. Even though it's still pretty bad.
Just
the air raid.
Just not scoring.
It travels.
Time of possession, 37-57 to 22-03. Yeah, that was it. They just didn't get the ball into the end zone.
They just got beat down.
That was definitely it.
The first 99 yards,
right.
they got that. It's just that last
right
one.
where it needed to be.
Quarterback for Hamburg, M. Leon, 11 of 29, 124 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks, sacked once.
That's what happened. Turn the ball over.
Only once. That's fine.
Turning the ball
That was
over.
it.
Lock in, QB.
Yeah, it wasn't Jay Jacob who ran 2 times for 2 yards.
That's what he did when he left Auburn.
But
okay.
No, it's not that guy. Not that guy
Sure.
at all. No.
Stat line sounds like it.
Definitely not him. It's not going to be him at all. So there you go. Now, those are your bad box scores of the day. 2 coming from the Elf League, European League of Football. We'll find out. It says they have a tab that says watch. Can we go back and watch these? Because I will go back. I don't want recaps. I want the whole
I
game.
think you can probably watch them. Surely you can watch
Live.
them somewhere. I don't know
week
what
6
channel, but I bet you we can.
Feels
find
like Vice.
Something.
We got a lot of top 10 plays, which I can
Maybe
imagine
Tubi.
they probably struggle to get those. Top 10 plays. All of Hamburg. All of Paris.
A little bit of France, yeah.
Every bit of it. We'll have that for you on
They gotta tighten
Wednesday.
up.
Let you know where we can get those. Yeah. Yeah, because week 8, we got some big matchups coming up with, where are my 0 for teams? Yeah, Paris, they take on Helvetic, who's 0-5. That'll probably give us one.
Somebody's got to win it.
Verhervar, the Enthroners, 0-6, taking on the Stuttgart Surge. There you go, John. 4-2.
There they are.
We got some
There
more
you
coming
go.
this weekend.
Let's go.
Some bad box scores of the day will be from the Elf League. Appreciate Paul Finebaum, Craig Halbert joining the show today. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. 3-man front is coming at you next. Keep it locked right here on Jox 94.5.